There's a lot of people that are worried, what the hell is going on here? Because it just doesn't make sense. Is my vote going to count? Can you come back and manipulate it? People don't have a lot of trust in the system today. What is your level of faith in the accuracy of the machines that we currently use?
Every single independent study where we have had access to voting machines, 100% of the voting machines have been hacked. Unhackable doesn't exist. Instead of saying trust but verify, you should have a zero trust approach. Never trust and always verify.
Hackers can manipulate the system this dramatically?
Once you gain access to the system, you can change anything as you want.
They can fix it if they really want to, but you're saying every machine has the same vulnerabilities of how to get into it. You think that's accidental?
There has to be a political will to create those standards to be mandatory and enforced. This is not a technological problem. This is a regulation and legal problem. What we need is transparency.
We don't have it though.
Well, we do actually.
How do we have that? You just said at the beginning of the podcast that, hey, never trust, always verify. And now you were saying we have to trust because it's bad for democracy. You just validated millions of people's concerns. I'm walking away with enough stories to tell for the next month.
Did you ever think you would make it? I feel I'm so close I could take sweet victory. I know this life meant for me. Yeah, why would you bet on Goliath when we got betdavid? Valuetainment, giving values contagious. This world of entrepreneurs, we get no value to hate it. How they run, homie, look what I become. I'm the one.
All right, so listen, since we're around 40 days away from the elections, I thought it was appropriate to bring somebody who has bought hundreds of voting machines himself and who has hacked into many voting machines himself to see if there's the ability to hack into them, to the point where March of 2020, 8 months before the elections of 2020, which was a controversial one, he was on an HBO documentary showing that many machines out there are able to be hacked into. And eventually, he was so successful that they called something the Hursty hack. Hursty is his last name. Was a successful attempt to alter the votes recorded on a Diebold optical scan voting machine. The hack is named after Harry Hursty, who is here with us, and I'll show you the results. And he decided to take it to a whole different level. Not only is he here in the flesh for us to talk about, you know, what's out there, what's possible out there, he brought a voting machine here with him to show us, and he's going to actually hack into it live. You're going to see it here with our friend who's a guest today. Harry, it's great to have you on a podcast.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, so as a hacker security researcher, I want to start it off with this first, okay? I think it's the first story, Rob, if I'm not mistaken, let me go to the story, and I want to get right into this here. Story comes out August 12th of this year, Politico. Okay, you're quoted in it. The nation's best hackers found vulnerabilities in voting machines, but no time to fix them. Okay, top hackers at DEF CON. DEF CON is where a lot of these hackers, you guys go to, expose vulnerabilities in U.S. voting machines, but fixes are unlikely, Rob, if you want to pull up this article, if this is it, before November 2024 election, due to the long and complex process of updates. Organizers are frustrated. There is so much basic stuff that should be happening and is not happening, said co-founder Harry Hursty. It's not a 90-day fix, and it continues. Security concerns are heightened by past foreign interference like the 2016 Russian hacks and recent threats. Hursty warned, if you don't think this kind of place is running 24/7 in China, Russia, you're kidding yourself. Adversaries have access to everything. While DEF CON hackers highlight these issues annually, the slow response from manufacturers and election officials raises fears that unpatched vulnerabilities could fuel future allegations of election fraud. So after your experience with all these different machines, what is your level of faith in the accuracy of the machines that we currently use?
So first of all, the quote you said about the room running 24/7 in adversary country, that actually was a quote made by one of the top spy agencies of a U.S. director in DEFCON. So I'm just, if it's put to me, it's just repeating what he said.
Who was the person that said?
That was Rob Joyce of NSA.
Got it. If you want to pull up his name so we can give him credit, please keep going.
So my confidence actually in U.S. elections is high. Right now, we have to improve the systems, but we already know how to get elections done right on just hand-marked paper ballots. And since I started and my colleagues started to expose the problems, more and more of the United States have transitioned to have a hand-marked paper ballots. And in the U.S., you have to understand the U.S. elections are almost uniquely complex. There are countries which have more complex elections than the U.S., but not very many. In the U.S., there is no alternative in most of the U.S. to use voting machines. You have to use them because voting machines actually are more accurate than humans. The error rate of humans, especially if you think about the stress environment on election night, is higher than margin of victory in a lot of places. So you have to use voting machines to count paper ballots. Now you have paper ballot, which means that you can always verify the results. And there's a methodological risk limiting audit, which is amazing and developed by Professor Philip Stark, one of the main authors of that. It's a very cost effective in the labor hours. And you can verify that the election have a right outcome. So we already know how to fix it. At the same time, when we look voting machines, yes, we have vulnerabilities in machines, and we will have vulnerabilities always. There will never be, unhackable doesn't exist. So instead of saying trust but verify, you should have a zero trust approach. Never trust and always verify. So we always have to verify the results.
Never trust and always verify is what you say.
Correct.
Okay. All right. But you went back and you said your confidence in the election and everything's very high. It's going to be good because, it's a lot easier to use the machines versus you. So you're going to do, paper ballots. And it said, you're right. But the question isn't if it's left alone to do its job. The problem that people have, which is why you did the documentary you did with HBO. It's so interesting when you guys did it. You did it March 2020, which was 8 months before the elections. And there was not much done on that afterwards from HBO. It was an interest of what happened before that. So I guess my question for you would be the following. In the area of tampering, when it comes down to things like this, tampering with these machines by hackers, okay? We have a machine here. In a few minutes, you'll hack it and show everybody that, you can hack into this machine here, and you'll give the model and all that stuff that we'll talk about. If we line up 50 of your colleagues who are also hackers like yourself, and we gave $1 million prize to hack into the most recent machines that we have, all of them, out of 50 people, how many would be able to hack into the machines to manipulate the votes?
I would guess everyone.
You would guess everyone.
Because these machines are, when we look the systems, and we had DEFCON this summer, brand new system, which is used in a very limited sense. I think the number was 42 vulnerabilities found in 2.5 days.
Okay.
So these systems have a lot of vulnerabilities. Now the question is how you mitigate. That's why we have to expose the problems so that we can develop a mitigation strategy. Like the hack what I'm going to show here, the mitigation strategy is limiting physical access. At the same time, it's very bad idea to think that somebody would wake up in the election day morning and say, oh, today I have nothing to do, I will hack election. Obviously, you would have a years of planning or months of planning ahead of that. I also want to say one thing about this movie where the Kill Chain, the cyber war in American election, that was the second movie. Our first HBO documentary came out in 2006. So this is already a follow-up. And we were filming it, give or take 5 years. The reason that it came out in 2020 March was just how long the production took. But that was years and years of filming, gathering material, doing the research, doing the investigations. So
I want to do this for the audience to also know who you are and who you're not. More or so for the audience to know who you're not. Rob, where is the story of, let me find this. I think it's important because this will give a lot of context. You went to the event, if I'm not mistaken, where Mike Lindell, there you go. Mike Lindell was holding a 3-day cyber symposium in August of 2021, right? Mm-hmm. And he had the promise that he would present irrefutable evidence of election fraud in 2020 elections. okay? And you attended the event with a journalist, Donnie O'Sullivan, if I'm not mistaken.
CNN.
Correct me on any of this if I'm saying that. And then at the end of it, you said there was a pile of nothing and found no proof of election fraud. Do you still stand by that?
Absolutely. And actually, even before that, Mike Lindell's claim, what he has, were fundamentally impossible. That kind of data he claimed to have doesn't exist, and no government even has a capability of gathering that information. Yeah. So even before coming there, I knew there will be nothing. Actually, my suspicion was that there would be a synthetic data which would be hard to prove right or wrong. And my shock was there was nothing, absolutely not even this kind of smoke and mirror data. So that was a absolute nothing.
Did he bring a hacker up on stage and say, here's how easy it is to hack into the systems?
I don't know what happened on stage because we experts were locked in the back rooms. So we didn't see what is happening on the stage.
Was it a public event or was it a private event?
I think it was a private event because it was invitation only. And like he didn't even want to have hackers.
Right.
He was putting different rules who are qualified. But then he told publicly that media and elected officials can bring their own experts. So I was never invited there by Mike Lindell. I was actually brought in by CNN because they were the media who got me in.
Got it. So CNN was able to get you in, but you were not fully in there to see what was going on. So on one end,
none of the experts.
Right. So on one end, you believe the top 50 hackers at DEF CON could hack into any one of the machines that they have, including the latest one. Yet at the same time, you don't believe the Mike Lindell's theories were anything that there was any credibility behind it. So both positions is what you're taking. Okay.
Correct.
Great.
And I want to say that's one thing what was so hilariously funny about Mike Lindell's statement, because he was showing that he had claimed the data. He has the data how every single place was hacked. And one of the list was all 320 jurisdictions of New Hampshire. Well, the problem is, out of the 320 jurisdictions, 123 uses no computers whatsoever. It's a pure hand count, no computers. Yet he claimed that he has an evidence how these places were hacked by Chinese. They don't have computers. There's nothing to be hacked.
Right, but the part, again, two things can be right and wrong at the same time.
Correct.
You're not saying the machines are impossible to hack. You're saying we can hack every one of them. But at the same time, you're saying what he's saying was not accurate. There was not a lot of proof there. Okay, so let's put those out there for the audience to know where we're at with that, right?
Correct. And I have to say one thing. Every single independent study where we have had access to voting machines, 100% of the voting machines have been hacked. So, and that's going to be every computer in the world can be hacked if you have access and no mitigation. Now, when we've hacked the machines, that is for the purpose that we can improve. And if you cannot improve the system, then you have to improve everything around the system, have a mitigation strategy, how you defend the system, either by having it tamper evident or preventing the access what hackers need. But there's always a way to try to mitigate. But we really, really have to get this more secure so that the machines, there's less requirement for mitigation.
You think there's certain people that almost don't want it to be fixed?
I have to say that I'm very worried for initiatives now when jurisdictions in the U.S. are actually disabling and dismantling their own security for a reason that whatever is their reason. So there are these small rogue places where people are actually destroying their own security on purpose.
Destroyed their own security on purpose.
Yes, what I said.
And that's what happens here in the States.
There are states, there are counties where that's actually happening right now.
And all it takes is a couple good counties to be able to flip the vote, right? So,
well, it's even if those cannot flip the vote, the reason here is to deny the result or make a false allocation, disinformation, malinformation. So a lot of this is very dangerous because it is feeding to the distrust of the public. And in democracy, any distrust is damaging the participation. And democracy is all about participation. So if the
distrust?
Distrust is causing apathy. Apathy is something which is detrimental for functioning democracy.
Hari, do you know how you started a podcast? Do you know what you said?
Yes.
What did you say?
I say that I have a trust on the voting and elections.
No. You said always verify, never trust.
Yes.
So, but hear me out, because you just said at the beginning of the podcast that, hey, never trust.
Correct.
Always verify. And then now you're saying we have to trust because it's bad for democracy.
We have to verify.
Yeah, but you said never trust. You said we should trust a little bit because democracy needs for us to trust the system.
So you have to be able to trust that if the system fails, so if the voting machine fails, you will be always still being able to verify the result and the outcome. And that's why hand-marked paper ballots allows you to do that. No matter what the voting machines are doing, you can always put humans to look every ballot and make certain that the outcome is right.
It's kind of it's...
And by the way, we have had thousands of years of fraud on paper. That's why we are so good in mitigating against fraud on paper. So you just have to make certain that those huge piles of paper is protected physically.
And at the same time, you hear Elon Musk saying the fact that he's not a fan of electronic voting machines as he wades into sensitive Indian debate. Anything can be hacked. This was just a few months ago. I'm sure you saw that. And he's calling for eliminating electric voting machines ahead of U.S. elections, risk of hacking. This is a story, again, for India, and he's concerned about it. A lot of people are concerned about that as well, which I'm sure you can understand why. And then at the same time, while we're going through this, we saw what happened with Dominion when Dominion sued Fox and they had to pay whatever, $780 million. Yet, did you hear about Smartmatic?
I know that company, yes.
You know when Smartmatic, you know how much money they wanted from Fox News? Do you remember the article? So Smartmatic, they wanted, can you go a little lower so we can show what Smartmatic was asking for, Rob, if you have that number? So Smartmatic, zoom in a little bit, this is, by the way, Harry, I appreciate you doing this. Trust me, a lot of people are interested.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of people that are worried, what the hell is going on here? Because it just doesn't make sense. If you can pull up what Smartmatic wanted to ask from, if you type in 2.7, Rob, type in 2.7, okay, for denies wrongdoing and finding New York State, Smartmatic wants $2.7 billion from Fox and other Trump allies that it named in the lawsuit, right? Mm-hmm. So that's this. Now, Rob, if you can go to the story about Smartmatic's founder. Did you see the story about Smartmatic's president? Smartmatic president, two other execs charged with bribing Philippines elections official DOJ. The voting machine company executives allegedly paid $1 million in bribes. This is a month ago, 2 months ago. So this is the part where the American voter is sitting there saying, wait a minute, you just asked for $2.7 billion, accusing everybody of crime. You're the real criminal doing something like this. And ABC, CBS, NBC, CNN, everybody's writing about it. So that's where people are conflicted. Is my vote going to count? Can you come back and manipulate it? People don't have a lot of trust in the system today.
That's very good. Yeah. Smartmatic is not used in the U.S. Because basically, only LA County is using anything to do with the Smartmatic.
But the reason why I'm showing you this is because these guys, they jumped on the bandwagon of Dominion. So I'm making the comparison on the fact that all of these guys want to come out there, act like they're flawless and they're doing everything the right way, and not saying the fact that there's a possibility of somebody tampering with our technology that we have. Okay, so of everything that you've done with your investigation into these systems, if you don't mind kind of sharing the story of what happened with Leon High School, the pre-hack and the post-hack. I don't know if you know the story about the series of 4 tests conducted February, May, and December of 2005. Sancho invited black box voting to Tallahassee after an invitation to check the Diebold machines. The black box voting engaged the services of Dr. Herbert Hugh Thompson and Harry Hursty.
It's a Leon County.
Right. I totally get that. What I'm trying to say is the fact that a small test to see how much effect it had, right? So then the first 2 projects targeted a computer program that adds up all the voting machine results and produces the final report, right? On February 14 and again on May 2nd, Thompson successfully hacked the Diebold GEMS central tabulator and bypassed all passwords by using a Visual Basic script, right? This, however, will be detected in a vigilant environment if the supervisor of elections checks the poll tapes, voting machine results, against the central tabulator report. For purpose of demonstration, an election was ran using this just to kind of test the model out. And the results of the first hack are shown as right here, okay? So this is pre-hack. Bud Baker was winning, 54.79%. And then Thomas was at 16.89%, and Nadia was at 28%. Post-hack, Bud was at 10.71%, and Thomas was at 3.3%, and Nadia was at 85.98%. That means hackers can manipulate the system this dramatically?
Absolutely. I mean, once you gain access to the system, you can change anything as you want. Change might be unbelievable and trigger immediately distrust, but yes, once you are in the system, there's no limits what you can do with it.
Such as, can you unpack that for us? Like when you say no limits, and by the way, can you vote in America?
I'm a citizen.
You're a citizen, so you can vote. Okay, but you're Finnish, right? If I'm not
I'm
mistaken.
a dual citizen.
Right, you're dual citizen. So when you say unlimited, what you can do with it, how much can you flip it?
So at DEF CON, we ran a test election, mock election, which was a close race between George Washington and Benedict Arnold.
Okay.
And when after everybody had voted, we printed the results. Tark Tangent, the founder of DEF CON, won, and he wasn't even on a ballot.
Okay. And the people that come to DEF CON, are they all from America or all over the world?
All over the world.
What country represents the most to DEF CON?
U.S., of course.
And who's number 2?
I don't know.
Okay. How many people show up normally?
About 30,000.
30,000 show up. And, okay, so when you guys in your community talk about what country produces the best hackers, who has the reputation? Like, in America, like yesterday I'm having lunch at this restaurant in Naples, Florida, because I'm coming back from a soccer tournament in Sarasota, Florida. So we go to this restaurant, nice place, we're eating. Guy comes up, hey, I love the content, I love the podcast. Can I take a picture? Yes, where are you from? I'm from Dominican Republic. Who's the best player ever from Dominican Republic? Because they produce very good baseball players. Juan Soto, great. When it comes on to hackers, who produces the best hackers generally?
Hackers come from all types and stages everywhere in the world. So there's no place producing best hackers. Hackers come everywhere from the world and every background. And a lot of the hackers, used to be in the US, but right now they are everywhere.
And who typically are there hackers that are edgy, that they'll flirt in the gray area? Maybe even they'll go to flirting with crime and doing things. As long as you pay them well, they would do certain things that could break the law? I think that could be fair to say that, right?
It's fair to say, and at the same time, we are right now in the first phase of statecraft. So it's increasing amount of hackers who are not in crime organizations, but are in state-sponsored crime, or whether it's a crime, financial crime in the neighboring countries, whether it's disrupting their critical infrastructure. Yeah. So there are many motivations why people go to the dark side.
And the reason why I'm asking this is because there are a lot of people that would be willing to pay unlimited amounts of money to be able to control the elections in the U.S., right?
Absolutely.
Such as countries like China, countries like Russia, countries like Iran. A lot of places would, right?
Absolutely.
So do hackers every once in a while get offered a certain amount of money that's tempting to say no?
I mean, there are a number of marketplaces where hackers are being recruited, and there are a number of ways to recruit. So absolutely, there's always a different actors and organizations who are trying to hire hackers for things which are crime somewhere else in the world, or crime even in the countries where they're living in. So absolutely, there is a market and there is a recruitment by bad actors and adversaries.
Yeah, I think this is a very, very unique set of skill sets that can determine the leader of the free world. That's not a regular skill set. You can have a sniper. Okay, good for you for having that skill set, right? You can have the skill set of doing a lot of different things. When you're a hacker, hackers typically think very highly of themselves. And I don't blame them. And I'll say why. Because in hackers' mind, if they wanted to destroy someone's life, they generally could. Not physically, but they could do it credit-wise, financially, password, business, many different ways. Would you agree?
Absolutely.
Okay. So let's get to this. So for you, I read an article where you once bought a voting machine on eBay and they were freaking out, right? Is there a story of that when you bought one? I don't know what I saw the story. It says a voting machine ends up on eBay, an official launch urgent probe. This was a couple years ago. And let me read this because this is very interesting on what happens with this one here.
Let me tell you one thing in between. So very notable computer scientists, and especially Ron Rivest, who is the R in RSA, coined a term called software independence. It's a principle how elections should be run, which means that no software error, malicious act in software or an honest error should be undetected and allow you to change the outcome of the election. So we already know that we have to make the computers to be never trusted so that we can always come up with the right result and we can have confidence that the outcome of the election is right, because the hackers will always be able to hack the elections and machines. The question is, you have to make certain it doesn't happen without being able to detect and remediate the problem.
But what is okay, but let me go back to what I was saying here. Here's the one where Michigan officials are investigating. A hacker bought a voting machine on eBay, okay? Harry Hursty, a cybersecurity expert, bought a Dominion ImageCast X voting machine for $1,200 on eBay. Michigan officials, unaware it was missing, are now investigating. Hursty said they really had no idea, and this is one of the biggest dangers to election security. This is you saying that. The eBay seller, Ian Hutchinson, found the machine on a Michigan Goodwill website for $7.99, $8, and listed it on eBay, claiming it had been used in the most recent Michigan elections. And Michigan is investigating whether the machine was stolen. Hursty, featured in documentaries like Hacking Democracy, emphasized that the biggest threat to election devices is often human incompetence. He regularly buys machines to test for vulnerabilities, explaining the reason you pop open the machine is to learn the vulnerabilities to safeguard democracy.
So first of all, when I bought the machine, I didn't know whether it came from Michigan or some other state.
Because how would you know?
Well, there was a conflicting data in the advertising. So I actually personally contacted Michigan and a couple of other states saying, I bought it. It's right in a FedEx. It's not yet in my possession. Go figure it out what happened. So I self-reported it because I have bought over the years hundreds of voting machines. And I have made certain that none of those machines are obtained illegally. So I always had the receipt. I always make sure that I know exactly where the machine came from and what is the chain of custody of that particular machine. By the way, some of these machines have been directly coming from the counties which have stopped using them. Even when some other counties are using, they are stopping. So some of these are directly from the government, local governments. Some of these are from eBay. Some of those are actually, of all the places, from Alibaba. So
out of all the machines you bought hundreds, you said, right? What's the least you paid for one? What's the most you paid for one?
So the least is $0 because government, sometimes these voting machines are so bulky, especially the high-speed scanners, so they just want to get rid of them. So actually I have once needed to pay because I want to have the receipt. So they couldn't write the receipt for the machine they're giving for free. So I had to pay them to write the receipt so that I have evidence that I have legally obtained this. So the lowest number is $0. And actually that $1,200 is the highest.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Because I really wanted to have it. And as I said, I immediately reported it. Yeah. I had a conversation with the law enforcement authorities until it was clear that everything is fine.
Hari, some kids are interested in baseball cards. Some kids are interested in video games. Some want to grow up and become singers, actors, celebrities, movie stars. Why the interest with voting machines?
Actually, I had none.
So why did you buy a few hundred of them?
So let me tell the story, why I got into this. So I had sold again my businesses. I had retired again, second time, and I was backpacking around the world. And I stopped in California, and a couple of my friends wanted to have a conversation and talk about the problems in voting machines. And I told them that what they tell me doesn't make any sense at all. It cannot be that bad, and they must have been misinformed or they have misunderstood, and they were asking, would I be interested? I said, absolutely not. Off to Tahiti. I'm gone. Then they tried to convince me for best part of a year. And I said, no. Until then, they relayed my information to Britain. And then I started getting calls from UK. And I went to UK a couple of times. They were trying to get me interested. And I really was like, I'm retired. I don't want to do this. Eventually, Ian Sancho was the person from Leon County. He was the guy who convinced me, because after I was there with Hugh Thompson and I looked into the possible ways, then he was the one who told me that he thinks he has a fiduciary duty to investigate. And either if I investigate or find someone for him to investigate what is truth in the vulnerabilities, because he was responsible for Bush versus Gore recount on 2000. So
who's that?
Ian Sancho.
Ian Sancho, okay.
Yeah, so he was telling me, and that's how he convinced. He said, when Supreme Court stopped my recount, I didn't get my answers. I want to know the truth. And that's why he convinced me to start investigating, and rest is history. I really didn't have any desire. Actually, I was actively saying no for, I think, a year and a half.
Got it. And then when was the tipping point for you where you were obsessed?
I don't think I'm still obsessed.
You have a few hundred voting machines. You don't think that's obsessed?
No. No.
Where do you put these voting machines in?
They are in the multiple storages around the U.S. Some are in Washington, D.C., some are in Nevada near Las Vegas. I mean, the reason is that we also do demonstrations. So I'm with the Election Integrity Foundation, which is nonprofit. It's a nonprofit which is grassroots. All the money comes from donations from common, normal people. And it's all funded up. One thing what we do is we go very often to Capitol Hill to show the legislators what are the vulnerabilities and try to raise the awareness, what is true and what is not. So how we make this more secure. So that's why there's not a single place where the voting machines live. They live in the multiple locations.
Got it. Okay. So while you're going through these voting machines that you own and you're personally hacking, do you, in your mind, do you measure it in a way of, let me see how long it'll take me to hack into this one. This one took me 38 seconds. Let me see how long it took me to hack in this one. Wow, this one took me 2.5 hours. Is that how you measure? Okay, how do you measure it?
I don't. I actually, after the fact, I look the vulnerability and I'm thinking how hard it is to mitigate, how hard it is to stop this to happen, and how easy it is to stop this to ever happening in real life. That's how I measure it. It's not like how quickly you find the first vulnerability, because also very often when you find the first vulnerability, it's not the bad vulnerability. It takes time to figure out what really is the big flaw, if you may. So that's why it's never a process of Hursti Hack 2. I have to tell the story behind it. That was the hack, and the study was done in the courthouse.
What was that, Hack 2?
The Hursti Hack number 2.
Oh, okay.
Got it. So that was done in a courtroom, and there was a courtroom which was sealed off. I was looking at the voting machines, and I had been promised access, I think it was 3 days, but it didn't say 3 consecutive days. So I already found a lot of stuff in the first 2 days, and then I decided I need to take a break. So I left, that was done in Utah, so I flew from there to Oregon, had beers, and all of a sudden I was like, wait a minute. It was slower. And I did the crazy stuff like sniffing, like listening, smelling the voting machine, all of that. And all of a sudden I realized it was slower and it smelled. So it heated up. And that's when I came to discover, which then later became the Hursti Hack 2. It was literally it was not any of the first ones. It was the last one, which was the really bad vulnerability.
So do you think the Al Gore President Bush election was accurately counted at the time?
So first of all, we have been investigating so many of allegations, and not a single time we have been seeing outcome determining flaw or miscalculation or anything. So I cannot make a determination one way or another about Bush versus Gore because I was not investigating that. A lot of good people were investigating that, and they make their determinations.
What does Ian think? Ian Sancho?
Ian Sancho was doing the recount, but I was not involved in Bush versus Gore election. He was doing the recount.
Got it. And where is he at? Does he think that it was Gore who won?
I don't have ever asked that, and I really don't want to go into a place saying, speculating. I've looked the evidence and data, and every single time, that's why I'm also saying for 2016 and 2020, every single time there's a credible allegation and there's access. There's me and a lot of other experts who are dying to go there and figure it out what happened. And when I was doing, so New Hampshire didn't have a law allowing forensic audit. So I helped in that. We did a forensic audit in Rockham. So it's a Windham County, Rockham District 7. That was summer 2021. And it was misreported in the news. So let me tell what it was. There was a down in a ballot race. 8 candidates vote for 4. The 4 Republicans won, and the one of the Democrats was so close that she asked for recount. In New Hampshire, when recount is requested, it's always granted, and they do it amazingly. It's a public event. Everybody can see the recount. Everybody can, from audience, can ask if there's something they can stop. They do it the best. It's one of the best things in the whole U.S. So when they did the recount, and in New Hampshire, when you do a recount, everybody gets more votes because voters are not following the instructions. So there's always assumption everybody gets more votes. So in the recount, the 4 Republicans got about 300 votes more. 3 of the Democrats got about 30-40 votes more. And the woman who asked for a recount lost 99 votes. So first of all, having 300 votes more is the biggest numerical difference there has been. Losing votes is basically impossible in the sense of 99 votes. So it was obvious something is wrong. New Hampshire did the right thing. They wanted to find out what it is. So the special law was passed where saying there will be an audit. It will not change the outcome, but let's try to figure out what went wrong. When I was appointed by a Democratic Secretary of State and jointly with the Republican Attorney General as one of the 3 investigators, my first saying was, we might never know, but we have to take a look and try to figure it out. So eventually, out of this whole thing, we found out what happened, and it was a paper folding machine. So the paper had a crease so that when a human is bending it, it always bends in a safe zone. Also, the secretaries did the right thing. They had tested if folding it through a vote target would cause a phantom vote, and they determined no, it won't do it. So what happened was the election office was behind in sending the mail-in ballots. Somebody had remembered, in DMV, there's a paper folding machine. So they brought the paper folding machine. They didn't adjust it, so it folded the paper in the wrong spot. It also was slightly broken so that it didn't fold the paper completely horizontally. It was slightly diagonal. So as a consequence, it folded it through the Democratic candidate's vote target. Now, the Secretary of State has tested foldings, but they didn't realize one part, which is whether you fold it up or down makes a difference. So they didn't have a documentation, but the assumption is right now they only folded it the way which doesn't affect and the other way does. Mm-hmm. So this way, and because the folding machine was broken, it folded through the target without damaging the timing marks, because otherwise the voting machine would have been rejecting it. So eventually we figured out this is the reason. It's a 14% of the ballots which were used folded by the folding machine caused this phantom vote. And when the phantom vote was somebody voted straight party line Republican, and the folding created a phantom vote, it created overvote, so it tossed the votes for the Republicans. If, again, you didn't vote for her and you didn't have already 4 votes, it created a phantom vote. So the same folding created both anomalies. And then there was an additional part, which was that one of the voting machines, which was not used normally, hadn't been cleaned probably forever. And in the printing process, there is a dust which is used for making the ink dry so they don't stick. There was a buildup of that dust inside the voting machine. But that didn't create the problem. It just amplified the problem. So anyway, we eventually found out what happened. And for the good measure, we also audited by the law the governor's race and the senator race. And we also recounted all of that. So we found out that actually only that one target, which was that Democratic candidate target, that was the only one where there was a significant anomaly. So even in that case, it didn't change the outcome. No matter what happened, all those 4 same Republicans were going to get elected. But we investigated and found out now why the machine was miscounting those votes. And it was not malicious. It was just a conspiracy of coincidences. So many things needed to go wrong to create that anomaly.
Got it. Okay. So let's go back to the machines. Was there any one of the machines that you bought that was the toughest one to break into?
They are all, unfortunately, simple. And it's a question of just finding what is the vulnerability. We, in a voting village, we have been inviting every year the voting system vendors to bring the newest voting machines, because always the claim is, oh, you didn't have the newest one. So we have been inviting them to come with the newest machines, and let's put them to. So voting village is not a formal test.
You want to just show it to us to see how this works?
This one, we can do it in a moment. Let me answer this question. So we have been inviting the newest machines, and they haven't brought in. At the same time, a lot of the newest machines, when you look at the certificates documents, have the same features as the previous generations, or previous generation of software and hardware. So while we have the older machine, we already know that the same vulnerability, if it's a certain vulnerability, is in the newest machines.
Doesn't that make you question why they don't listen to you guys to improve if you guys have easily hacked into all of them? Why wouldn't they, while they're designing it, bring it to hackers and say, here, try to break into it? Why don't they do that?
So some of the companies claim that they do it in private, and the number one principle is independent research, which means that it's done by researchers who are not paid by the vendor themselves, who are independently doing the study. We have had independent research. Basically, the Everest study for Secretary of State Ohio was one where she commissioned university, and I was part of the university's team to hack. Independent research is number one. And it also creates a little bit of public pressure to get things fixed. When you read my comment, part of the comment is that, for example, one system still today, the newest version, uses a bootloader from 2004, kernel for 2007. So even when the software version is brand new, it uses components which are old and tired and should have been changed a long time ago. And personally, self-regulation, I don't think works. We need a regulation. We need a standards which are requiring the voting system vendors to improve. And that's, I don't have a silver bullet. I don't know how to get this done. Only thing what we can do is try to raise awareness. What is the problem? And that problem needs to be fixed.
I have so many questions, though. I mean, the average, it doesn't take a genius on the other side to say, if they really want to fix this, fix it. They can fix it if they really want to, but you're saying every machine has the same vulnerabilities of how to get into it. So it doesn't look like they're making any kind of progress.
So back in 2005 when I published Hershey Hack.
Right.
What happened sequentially was the voting system vendor, which is no longer in business with that name, Diebold, they claimed that, they basically told this was a magic show and it's not true. Secretary of State California, Deborah Bowen at the time, no, it was not Deborah Bowen, it was before Deborah Bowen, ordered a study where a University of California, Berkeley, conducted a study to verify if my findings were right or wrong. Not only they verified my finding right, but they found, I think it was over a dozen new vulnerabilities, additional vulnerabilities. At that time, me and everybody else thought, okay, job is done. It will get fixed. We thought we have now done our job. We have shown this vulnerability. It will get fixed. That same software version is still in use today. The same thing what I showed vulnerable, it's, thank God it's getting phased out, but it's still, it never actually was.
Doesn't it make you realize they don't want to fix it?
Well, I don't know.
Why don't you, as a very smart guy, much smarter than me, you're a technical guy, you have to sit there, part of you realize, they just don't want to fix it. If they did want to fix, think about it this way. How much has the phone advanced from this to Nokia 5960, 5690 from 20 years ago? A lot.
Absolutely.
There's a smartphone now, right? I mean, if you go to how much safer is, when you're going in and the camera and TSA, what they're doing versus 30 years ago, a lot safer. There's so many things that we've made so much progress. Yet the one that chooses our policies, how much we pay in taxes, our protection, the president, they're moving slow in it? You think that's accidental?
Well, I mean, there's another aspect on this.
What's
when
that?
2000 happened, and it was very embarrassing. America did what America does, which is to throw $3 billion into the problem. So that created a Help America Vote Act, HAVA Act of 2002. So it created a lot of money to buy and modernize U.S. election infrastructure. Now, that money was handed out without establishing security standards. That means that the counties went to buy whatever is available, and there was no security standards attached. And again, they bought technology which was old 2002. So it created the problem we are dealing with right now. Now, there has been no subsequent pool of money of that size enabling another leapfrog to the next step. And also, there is still today no mandatory security standards. The certification of voting machines is called Volunteer Voting System Guidelines. The number one word is volunteer. So today, we have a VVSG 1.0, 1.1, 2.0, 3.0, but basically all voting machines are still certified against the 2005 1.0 because there is no mandatory requirement to use the newest guidelines or newest standard. So what we really need is the standards to be set out. We have NIST, National Institute of Standards and Technology. They are amazing writing standards. So U.S. government has the people who can write the standard, but there has to be a political will to create those standards to be mandatory and enforced. And today, even today's best standards are not, in my opinion, good enough. But the whole thing starts from regulation and laws. So this is not a technological problem. This is a regulation and legal problem.
This is not a technological problem. This is a regulation and a legal problem. Well, let me ask you this question. So this is the part where there may be another disconnect. Have you ever voted in America?
Of course.
Okay, so that means you have a political leaning, right? So we all do, okay? The moment it gets to the political leaning, the only way this could work is if it's people who are involved in this that are representatives to audit it, 10 people who are Democrats, 10 who are Republicans, and put, 5 that are independents and libertarians to audit the whole. There needs to be auditors of the auditors of the auditors, or else I don't trust you. You're a hacker because and what I mean, I don't mean that I don't trust you as a hacker, right? You vote a certain way you do. You may, Ian Sanchi, he's not a Bush guy. He's a Gore guy. So he's a Democrat, right? Now, he may not be happy about the fact that some Trumps in 2020 said there was election, interference and election fraud. He may say, no, 2020 was a clean election, right? And 2000 in Bush's side, maybe Bush people will say, no, it was clean. Bush won Florida. We understand it was so close, right? That's the area where people on both sides don't trust. But if there's one area that I'm convinced when somebody doesn't want to address fixing something too quickly, is because it's working for them.
You made amazingly good point without knowing. And let me tell you, we are filming this in Florida. So in Florida, Ian Sancho was in an office which is a non-partisan office.
Okay.
And in Florida, some of the counties had a partisan office as an election supervisor, and some of the counties had that as a non-partisan office.
Right.
Recently, Florida changed that all election supervisors are partisan offices. Does it make sense to you? This is a recent change. So actually, Ian Sancho...
What do you mean? Recently, Florida just changed everything for it to be partisan offices? So
election supervisors.
Election supervisor for Republicans, election supervisor for Democrats.
So previously, it was non-partisan office. So there was no... So the counties could choose whether it's a partisan office or non-partisan.
Well, what is a non-partisan office mean?
It means that you don't have a primary of Republican, Democrat running, and it's not...
I don't trust that.
Well, the point here is that even then... If you have an independent office, if the office is independent from partisan, so it's a non-partisan office.
Right.
It's, in my opinion, better than having that as a partisan office.
No, I don't trust that. Here's what I trust. Let me tell you what I trust. You know who's winning right now with you and I going back and forth? Guess who's winning right now?
I would say that if this is, hopefully this is not discouraging people from voting, because I think that's very important. But every single thing what is distrust and creates confusion, it's all the adversaries of the United States.
You know who's winning right now? The audience that gets to watch and say, I'm with him or I'm with him. But you know what the chances are? The audience is watching, and what are they saying? A part are going to agree with you, disagree with me. A part are going to agree with me, disagree with you. And that's how it needs to be. To me, it doesn't need to be partisan or nonpartisan. To me, it needs to be 5 representatives that are Democrats, 5 representatives that are Republicans in a state, and put 3 in the middle. That's how it needs to be, to hold each other accountable. It's like Billy Graham once said, back in the days, pastors used to go on trips when they would give, these preachers would go up there and they would preach. Well, women love pastors from stage that are great speakers. When pastors would go by themselves, a lot of ladies would come back to the hotel room and they would get caught. Then some pastors said, well, let's share rooms with one other person. Well, when you share rooms with one other person, one pastor could convince the other pastor to do something stupid. Billy Graham realized one thing. Whenever he would travel to go give speeches, guess what he would do? He would share rooms with 3 people. Because when it comes down to 3, one person's going to say, no, we're not doing that. No, we're not doing that. I am not comfortable just putting one Democrat in a room and one Republican in the room and let's trust they're going to do the right thing. Absolutely not. 5, 3 for each state, depending on what the size of the state's influence is. To do some bigger need to be more, some less. There needs to be the fight and everyone needs to watch. It can't be like, no, you can't see what I'm doing. No, you can't see this. No, there needs to be that protection from both sides if somebody's playing games. That's why we don't trust in America right now, the elections. And by the way, for full and maybe I'm wrong with this one, and the audience is going to say, no, Pat, you're not right. You're wrong about this. You didn't help me trust voting even more. You're not helping me trust it more. You just validated millions of people's concerns.
Well, actually, what I'm saying here is what we need is transparency.
We don't have it, though.
Well, we do, actually.
How do we have that?
So I spent over 6 months in Georgia in 2020 election, starting from all of the special elections, primaries, and after the presidential election, the special election of the Senate seats. There is amazing amount of transparency if you are willing to do it, if you are willing to be an observer, if you are willing to go and watch, and you can see how it's done, and you can see if there's something going wrong. What I really hated in Georgia was, for example, claims after the election saying, this one happened after everybody was thrown out. I actually took pictures also about the other observers, and I can show you the picture saying, the observers were still in the room. Nobody was leaving. This claim that there's no transparency is partly misinformation. So again, I strongly encourage people to be watching over this and participate in the process, either as a poll worker, but also as an observer, independent observer, or your political party's observer. And what we really need is more transparency. Because, again, never trust, always verify. And it's not only that you verify, but you also watch how the process is done.
Never trust, always verify. Trust me. Most people are where you are and what you said at the beginning. And then you said later on, because you know how powerful that is, a democracy we have to trust. No one trusts right now. It's the lowest trust in the history of America in the U.S. government and the mainstream media because we don't trust these machines. Okay, if you don't mind, would you mind taking a moment here and sharing with us how, and maybe tell us a little bit about the machine, and then from there, if you can show us how you hack into this thing, would be great.
Absolutely. So this machine is WinVote, and the reason I'm using this particular machine, it's no longer in use in the United States. So this way, no claim can be made that what we are doing here is helping somebody to realize how voting machines can be hacked. Let's wait for it.
So what year is this? Does this have like a model to it or no? Is this like a 1986 CRX? Like, is there names to it or no?
This is a WinVote machine. And for the reasons that we don't want to put a logo, this voting system technology company name is just a fake name, because I have been using this particular machine in filming a number of training videos, some of those for the government, just to show vulnerabilities like USB vulnerability, which we am going to be using. This machine actually had many vulnerabilities, and at the time when this was still in use, this was called the worst voting machine used in the United States. The worst voting machine used in the United States.
And where was this used, Harry?
That was used in Maryland. It was in Virginia. I don't have the complete list what all places it was used, but it was fairly widely used. When this is used, this box here is closed and locked, and that's why we are not going to be needing this to be open or closed. It's just open because we have a power button. So what we are going to be exploiting here is a USB vulnerability. The USB vulnerability is amazingly good to identify because it's easy to mitigate. Mm-hmm. You just stopped access to the USB port. I have plugged here a extension cable just that we can see that the actual USB port is behind there and it's accessible by the voter. I'm using here a commercially available USB computer called Bash Bunny. It can be many other devices. This is just an example. This particular device is $120. You can buy it from online. And I have pre-programmed it. And if this would be a real attack, the attack will take 6-7 seconds. I have slowed it down and make it visible so that the audience can see what is happening. So when I'm plugging it in, this is the Schrodinger's USB stick, is always wrong way. So the computer starts, and once it's started, it's doing its magic. The moment you see that the screen is changing, that is when the hack would have been already done and I would be unplugging it. But I'm just showing this number of things. So now it would have been done. It's showing you the program manager, it's showing you now the command prompt, and this is where all the votes live. So I'm just showing that the directory where all the votes would be. At this point of time, this stick has already complete control over the system. So at this time, anything can be done, anything can be changed. And as the last thing, I'm just showing a fake results, just to show that can be done. It's just to show that how the system is controlled. So this is a good example of a hack. And as I said, only reason why anything is seen on the screen and why it's this slow is because I artificially slowed it down and made it visible so that the audience can see that there's a control over the voting machine. This particular machine has many other vulnerabilities, way worse than this one. So that's why it's very good that this machine is no longer in use in the US. And this is also showing how demonstrating the vulnerabilities work, because that causes changes. And, for example, removal of this machine from being used in the US.
So now, what is it doing right now, Harry?
Nothing. It's already, the whole hack was done. But if this would have been an election, I could have gone to the database and, for example, changed the votes. That's one possibility.
How much of it could you have changed?
Anything.
You could have gone from 51 to 73.
Add a new candidate who was not even on the ballot. It doesn't matter. Because if you have total control over the system,
right,
you can do anything you want. As I say, one example was that we add a new candidate and make that candidate to win. It would be obvious if
the president of DEF CON is the one who won, George Washington. That's the one you're saying.
Yeah,
I got what you're saying. So is this like to the average hacker? Is this machine a joke on how easy it is?
It is a joke.
And how many years ago was it used?
I think this was last time used in 2012.
God, 12 years ago.
And also, just an example, that when this was brought first time to DEF CON, we had a professor from Denmark, and in less than half an hour, he hacked into this machine wirelessly. He didn't even touch the machine. He took complete control over this machine wirelessly, because this voting machine happens to have a wireless Wi-Fi access.
So, okay, so is it fair for one to speculate and question that any of the electronic voting machines we've used previously, possibility that could have been hacked, possibility that the winners were flipped because somebody got into it?
So again, the fundamental problem with this voting machine is it doesn't have a paper ballot. So if somebody hacked this kind of machine and would have manipulated it, there is no evidence. That's why we need paper ballots, and especially we need hand-marked paper ballots. Because if the results are called into question, now you can go and hand count those ballots and verify that the outcome of the election is right. But in these older type of machines called DREs, diary of recording election machines, this is if somebody gets into and changes the outcome, the game is over.
So that means anything previously used 2012, if somebody did get into it, One may be sitting here saying 99% of all the people that have won pre-2012, maybe somebody had their hands on it.
Well, I don't believe in... So first of all, I would say that if you think about elections as the attacker's point of view, U.S. elections use many type of machines. And I think the number in 2016 was 52 different types of voting machines were used. The money is on the local elections. It's not in the top of the ballot. It's in the proposal, a few billion dollars for Chris.
Right.
The question, that's where the motivation is. Hi, my name is Harry Hursty. I'm a lifelong hacker and security researcher, an engineer with a heart which thinks that impossible is just a state of mind. Connect with me in a minute. I'm here to explain anything you might wonder about election security, critical infrastructure security, cyberspace, cyber warfare, information space, information warfare, and connecting warfare. So please ask me questions. Hope to see you there in a minute.
The person who gets to come up with policies that's going to protect this country, which the rest of the world relies on what America does, is in the hands of someone that can tamper with it.
So, interesting point is that a lot of the voting machines used in the U.S. actually don't have a U.S. technology. They are not made in U.S. technology. Number two machine, for example, is programmed in Serbia. That's where the software comes from. That's where everybody who is controlling that...
Which one is that, the Serbia one? What's the model
That's
called?
the new Dominion machines.
Do you trust those?
As I said, never trust, always verify.
Have you messed with those yet, or you haven't? You don't have access to them?
I have one of those machines in the voting village.
How new is it? It's how recent?
I mean, again, the question is, because we are hardware vulnerabilities, we look, it doesn't matter. And every single time when somebody says, well, you didn't have a newest machine, well, then please submit to independent research the newest machine and let's see what happens. Because how secure a company is not how easily it's hacked. It's what do you do after it has been hacked. Because every single problem can be fixed or mitigated. The first step is to identify the problem so it can be mitigated. And as I said, the software independence as a principle means you go to the hand-marked paper ballots, which means that no matter what happens in the voting machines, you can always get the outcome verified.
Rob, can you do me a favor and pull up what we did exercise earlier? So here's what we did earlier, just to test it on. And credit goes to Brandon with this. Shout out to Brandon. Does a great job. Okay, so we first took the different tabulations methods used in 2020, okay? And Rob, if you want to say this, and then we compared it to 2024 to see what's changed, right?
Correct, according to Ballotpedia.
According to Ballotpedia, and then we fed it to ChatGPT. And what did ChatGPT tell us?
It gave us a list of, I believe it was 16 states that have changed the way that they count or tabulate the votes for the 2024 election as opposed to 2020.
So 2020 Alaska went from hand count and optical scan in 2020 to the DRE with VVPAT, now using hand count, optical scan, and DRE, okay? Arizona optical scan, including DREs and VVPAT, they went to that and now only using hand-marked paper ballots and BMDs, okay? Delaware optical scan to BMD tabulator. Hawaii optical scan and DRE to now they removed optical scan only, no more DRE. Idaho hand count, optical scan and DRE to now hand count and optical scan only, remove DRE. Kansas, you see it, they removed hand count and DRE. Kentucky, they are using BMDs only in 2024. Mississippi, they reduced the DREs. Missouri, they reduced DREs. Montana, no major change, about the same. Nevada, no major change, but emphasis on mail ballots. New Hampshire, no major change. And in New Jersey, they went from optical scan to BMD tabulator, optical scan, DRE, accessible interference, expanded use system use, and there's a couple more, 3 more left at the bottom. Ohio went from optical scan DRE to BMD tabulator, optical scan DRE. And in Oklahoma, they added direct recording assistive interference. West Virginia, hand count, optical scan DRE, and now BMD tabulator and optical scan. When you see this, and at the bottom, just to explain what the different things are, additional BMD tabulator systems in states like Delaware, Kansas, and West Virginia, reduction of DRE use, Ohio, Idaho, Mississippi, Missouri, shifting voting system, and so when you hear this, are you telling yourself, okay, good, they're making progress, or no, they're still doing the same thing?
So first of all, this is DRE. And DRE is the most insecure way of voting. So
most what?
Most insecure.
Insecure way of voting.
So that's why every reduction of DRE is a move to the right direction. My joke was that 2020 election was secured by COVID because when in-person voting went down, it means that less DREs were used because DRE is the most insecure way.
So you're saying 2020 election was the most accurate one, according to your assessment? So
I'm not agreeing with what Chris was saying when he was running CISA, that this was most secure election. I say it's most secure recent elections, because we don't know how secure elections were 50s and 60s and 70s. There's no way of making that measurement. But since Hava, that 2020 was most secure election because all of the problems had been flagged, not all of the problems, but the problems have been flagged. And that's why more eyeballs were looking into the election. More scrutinizing was put in place. And that is always good. As I said, transparency is very important. And people wanting to scrutinize the election is the good thing. So when I look, this whole thing is, I like the fact that DRE is going away because that's a move the right direction. I'm disagreeing that using a ballot marking device is good move, because ballot marking devices is putting another computer between voter and voter's vote. There's a recent study by University of Michigan where voters were presented a voting machine. They were told that they are testing a new method of voting, and that was ballot marking device. And the voters were encouraged and advised to study the ballot. What the voters didn't know is that the machine will cheat every single time. Every ballot printed by the machine was wrong.
Really?
And at the same time, only a tiny fraction of the voters actually caught it, because we humans are very bad in verifying our choices. This was a study where people were told to verify the ballot. So again, I'm against ballot marking devices. I'm advocate for hand-marked paper ballots. And I'm advocating at the same time to use, if a jurisdiction is large, use a ballot optical scans to do the scanning, because when it works, it's accurate. But you cannot trust it. You always have to use risk limiting audit or complete recount if you want to verify that the machine got right, because the human error rate is too high. And again, you have to think about the way elections are carried out.
Rob, check your phone. Go ahead.
The average age of poll workers, the joke is average age of poll workers goes up one every year. So there's always a shortage of poll workers. The whole idea which some activists are promoting, well, let's make smaller precincts and let's bring another set of people to do a hand count after the election night. It doesn't work because you don't have the manpower. You don't have the people who are willing to do it. And if you use same people who have been up 14 hours before you start counting, you have even increase you have the pressure, you have the tiredness, all of that. So hand-marked paper ballots, optical scan, and then mandatory risk-limiting audit. Every race, every ballot, every race, every time, you are doing a mandatory check that the outcome of the election is right. And let me underline one thing. Risk-limiting audit risk-limiting audit starts from an assumption that the result is wrong. It's misrepresented to say it verifies the result. No, it starts from the assumption the result is wrong. And then risk limiting audit is proving that the outcome is correct. So it starts by thinking it's wrong, and then it's proving it's right, or it proves that you have to go and recount everything because it doesn't match.
What kind of machines are used in Wisconsin? Do you know?
I don't on top of my head. And remember one thing. There are two kinds of states. There are states where the whole state uses the same machine. Most states don't have that. So you have multiple different kind of machines used across the state. Like Georgia is special in the sense that the whole Georgia is voting with the same machines. Most U.S. every county is different. So next county over might have a completely different machine than your county.
Oh my God, do you think that's a good idea?
there is a strong belief in U.S. that elections are state rights. So every state has a right to do the elections whatever way they want.
I believe that.
So that is, then you have two different kinds.
My question isn't that. My question is that they use different ways to calculate in a same state by different counties. I understand if it's state, but is it better to use one way of counting votes in an entire state?
Well, if you think about different size of jurisdictions, you like in New Hampshire.
Yeah.
New Hampshire has 120 plus voting jurisdictions who don't need voting machines because they are so small. So it would be not good to force them to use voting machines just because the large jurisdictions need to have a voting machine. So what I'm saying is that we need the federally set basic standards, what all voting machines have to meet. And after that, it doesn't matter if the next county over in the same state uses a different machine. But we need to have a unified set of rules. What are the minimum requirements for voting machines to be accepted to be used in the United States?
Yeah, I just, when you're counting, it's kind of like accrued versus cash basis. When a company is selling and you're calculating your EBITDA, if the way you calculate valuation is cash basis, let's just say somebody else does accrued, those are two different philosophical ways of calculating something, right? That's why I don't know if it's a good idea to have different methods of counting votes in the same state. I understand you want to do DREs, you want to do BMDs, you want to do paper ballots, but it's the entire state paper ballots, the entire state DRE, the entire state BMD. That gives a little bit more credibility than diversifying it too much.
I think every state and every county in the U.S. should be paper ballots. I don't think the DRE should be accepted. I mean, that's fundamentally the most insecure. We have been using mail-in ballots during Vietnam War, Korean War, World War II, World War I, the Revolutionary War. We know how mail-in ballots work. And in mail-in ballots, you get the paper ballot. You have problems like voter coercion, for example. Somebody can be forced, and that's usually happening in close circles next to you. All of those technologies are way better because you have a paper ballot, which you can go back. Instead of DRE, where you don't have just electronic records. The same reason is internet voting. We don't have a technology to do internet voting today. We just fundamentally don't have a way to do it. And people who are promoting internet voting use false analogies, for example, claiming that since we can do online banking, why can't we vote on internet? So first of all, election is a unique security problem in the world because of two requirements: secret ballot and auditability. Secret ballot means that even if the voter wants to reveal how he or she voted, shouldn't be able to. Because if you can be proving how you vote, it enables vote buying, vote selling, and vote coercion, election coercion, voter coercion. So that's the one thing. So if we wouldn't have secret ballot, we will have all of these problems coming back. And then we need to have the auditability. Of course, additional aspect is now public trust. And there are promising ways of thinking internet voting, for example, homomorphic encryption. But would you believe if I say that this machine is using the homomorphic encryption correctly? I don't think it's a good idea to use technology which is very small handful of people can even verify that it honestly works right. We need public trust. And paper ballot, handmarked paper ballot is the only way we can bring public trust. Also, people who are promoting internet voting are claiming that it will activate young voters. Estonia is one of the democracies which have been using internet voting longest, and they publish the age brackets. And when you go to Estonia, you see that the young voters are actually going down as a percentage, and the people over 55 is the growing people of internet voting. So the analogy used and the claim used, we need internet voting and mobile phone voting in order to get the younger people.
That's a valid argument. That's a valid argument.
But the evidence doesn't support the argument.
I get what you're saying. What do you think about blockchain? A lot of these guys are talking about what if we decide to go to blockchain for, voting. A lot of hackers are fans of blockchain technology, right?
Actually, hackers are not.
Hackers are not?
No.
So let me ask you a question. How do you think, what do hackers think about Bitcoin and cryptocurrency?
So let me go back to the blockchain. Blockchain is a solution looking for a problem it can solve. And it really haven't found a problem it can solve. Blockchain is fundamentally inefficient, slow, distributed database system, depending what is your consensus algorithm, how you put it. Blockchain, if you look 10 problems in elections, blockchain can be partial solution to 1 or 2 of those 10. But blockchain would create then 10 more problems. So you will be always net negative. Blockchain has no role in the vote counting part of the elections at all. It just doesn't. And even if you look for other parts like voter registration, then the question becomes a consensus algorithm and all the other technologies. Furthermore, blockchain voting systems have been proposed. For example, Duma of Moscow.
Yeah.
And it got immediately hacked. If you look the U.S. proposals, votes, it got hacked and got demonstrated. So the whole idea that blockchain is somehow harder to be hacked, not true.
Can you hack into blockchain?
I mean, depends which blockchain. But just before COVID, I was hired to validate 3 different blockchain systems overseas in Europe, and I hacked all 3 of them. It's just a question of what is the vulnerability. Okay, so then just answer the second question if you could. Hackers, are they fans of Bitcoin, Ethereum, cryptocurrency? Are they fans of it or no? If you look how many hacker conferences have always presentation, what are the vulnerabilities and how Bitcoin, for example, has a fundamental problem with the blockchain. Individually, yes, there's probably one hacker here than there who are a fan of that. But generally speaking, blockchain is not really a favorite thing for hackers.
Interesting. Hackers are not fans of blockchain. Because I'm looking at this year's Cyber Defense magazine. It says, why do hackers love cryptocurrency? I've had another guy that was a hacker who was a very big fan of blockchain and cryptocurrency, but you're not.
I really have to say that if I think my community of hackers and security researchers, if I have 1 out of 10 who are fans of blockchain, that's about it. 1 out of 10.
1 out of 10.
Mm-hmm. Because if you look how blockchain works, first of all, most of the people who claim to be blockchain experts don't even understand how blockchain works. And you can always test it by starting asking questions. For example, how the consensus algorithm works, what is the anchor of trust, how you measure all of that. And you realize whether the person actually understands how blockchain works or not. So, yeah, I mean, there are people who call themselves hackers. And I would say also that over the years, this has changed. When blockchain was a brand new technology, it was a way different acceptance level than it's now.
Okay, Rob, can I read this here? I think you have the same article. Can you go all the way to the top, what it says?
It doesn't have a title. For some reason, it's not loading, but it is the same article.
But in here, it says, why do hackers love cryptocurrency? Cyber criminals and hackers love cryptocurrency because it's off the books and it's perfect for, I understand, it's at cyber criminals.
Yes,
so it's like, you are using here,
that. Yeah. You are using here hackers as a synonym of criminal.
Totally get it. That's why I stopped it. It's perfect for moving illegal payments and demanding ransom. Ransomware is type of malicious software designed to block access to computer system and data, typically by encrypting it using ransomware. Attacker usually demands payment. Okay, so this is criminal activity.
Well,
we're not talking same thing. But
this is actually very good conversation. Because when you look at the history of ransomware was dying. It was going away. In a lot of my presentation, I have the first ransomware, because the first ransomware ever asked checks to be mailed to P.O. Box in Panama.
Right.
That was how the ransom was supposed to be paid. Very slow. And what made ransomware to bloom and the whole criminal ecosystem around ransomware was cryptocurrencies. That was the rocket fuel. So absolutely, if you are using hacker as a synonym to the criminals, yes, then they love it. But when I'm using hacker, I'm using hacker as the original term. People who are curious, who are tinkerers, who are researchers, and they are not criminals.
What do you think about Elon Musk?
I don't have personal opinion. I have only met the guy once.
Was it at a conference or?
That was when he was not that famous yet.
Really? Mm-hmm. How long ago was that?
Over 10 years ago.
You met him?
Yeah, that was a conference in California. That was right at the time when he was starting with the Tesla Roadster.
You think he's a net positive to society with what he's doing and what he's questioning?
I'm not taking that position one way or another.
Okay. Are most hackers similar to you about Elon Musk?
There was a amazing study, a PhD study in psychology by a guy who was working for Pentagon a long time. And he made an assumption when he started a PhD study. He had a hypothesis. There's this thing called chameleon hacker. So there's a special breed, an archetype of chameleon hacker.
Chameleon hacker?
Yes.
Okay.
So he was defining that as a hacker who have a credibility with the enterprises and government and criminals at the same time. So he was searching for a archetype of chameleon hacker. What he came up with...
Is this Mark Myfred?
No.
The Rhino 9? Or no, you're not?
No.
Okay.
So what he found out that there's no one archetype. There's actually two different archetypes who are achieving that. So hackers come with all, as I said, all backgrounds, shapes, and sizes.
Yeah.
So there is it's a wrong assumption to say that there would be, all hackers are the same. No, we are not. We are very different. We come from different backgrounds.
Yeah.
And again, originally hackers were basically non-political. I mean, it was curiosity and tinkering which drive. Then media started mixing hackers to be a criminal, and the word of hacker became meaning something else than it originally was. I'm always using myself, proudly I'm a hacker, because I use the original engineer, curiosity, studying, and try to make the world a better place. And when you go to old school hacker conferences, there is a strong moral compass and strong intention to make the world a better place for all.
I think you guys are necessary because you can break into things that, okay, so you know Ryan Montgomery?
I don't.
Okay, we had Ryan Montgomery on, and he's another hacker, and he calls himself the ethical hacker, right? One of the things he was investigating is human trafficking, okay? Because with the ability to be able to hack systems, messaging, you can see if somebody's trying to, go and, link up with a 12-year-old, 14-year-old, 15-year-old, and he was catching a lot of people, is what he was doing, right? And it was consistent. And he's done that for a while. If you have access to be able to get the kind of information that you wanted to get, if the U.S. government wanted to hire all the hackers to find out, what the communications, like right now, Diddy is being accused of all the stuff. Puff Daddy, I don't know if you listen to a lot of Puff Daddy. He's been accused of doing a lot of stuff that he did with kids and all that stuff, or Epstein back in the days. If the U.S. government really wanted to know that stuff and they hired 50 of you guys, 100 of you guys, would you guys be able to hack into systems to find out communications, what's been said, what's not been said? Would you be able to get to the bottom of it faster?
Different U.S. agencies are hiring hackers in large numbers, especially if you look at the alphabet soup. So different intelligence agencies. Really, the question is the legal system. Again, what kind of evidence can be archived, what different ways. Also, hackers, generally speaking, respect privacy. So it's when you are asking a question, can people hack to certain systems, there's first question is it legal? But second thing is, even if it would be legal, hackers tend to have a strong respect of privacy of the others for good reason. And that's really the difference between when you think hackers as a criminals and when you think hackers as the way I define hackers.
Yeah, but I mean, that's kind of like when, mainstream media, say from the left, there's somebody that's investigating a story, and if they don't like the story because it goes against them, they'll say, that's a conspiracy theorist. That's what he's doing. And they want to kind of put them in a box to make fun of them and have them lose credibility. It seems like that's the same thing they do with you guys with hackers, and they put you in that, now it sounds like you guys are offended by that as well when it happens to you.
Well, it's a necessary evil, but as I said, it's very important to know the difference. So now, again, going back to when you said ethical hacker, that's another thing which is important to understand. I'm very often asked, you're white hat. I say, not necessarily so. I'm ethical. But white hat hackers are very often trained and certified so that they are smarter than the other people. Well, criminals don't get to brag about their achievements. They try to stay out of jail. And in order to be good in what I do, I have to have the criminal mind. So I'm always saying I'm a black hat who doesn't practice crime. But I have to know the way of thinking so that I can find the vulnerabilities, which might be sometimes stupid. But again, there's no style points in crime. So you have to understand how you look into the places which are stupid but work.
What do you think about Bill Gates?
What about him?
Any opinion on him? Like the work he's done, the things he works on? Do you have an opinion on him?
I mean, one of the pioneers. Unlike Steve Jobs, who was a marketing guy, Bill Gates was a true engineer and put a lot of work into building early software and trailblaze how we work, whether we are agreeing or disagreeing about open source and different kernel models and different ways of making things work. Those are part of the corporate world. But nobody can deny his contributions to early computers and how we get to where we are today.
Got it. Mark Zuckerberg, what do you think about him?
Again, that's more an application, not trailblazing. Social media is so when we talk about cyber war, we have to understand that every domain where we fight wars, air, space, land, sea, undersea, they are natural domains. There's a laws of physics. There is a rules of the road by the laws of physics. The man-made domains we fight wars is cyber and information. For a long time, those two things have been put in the same basket because information was not understood to be separate. What Mark Zuckerberg and the founder of Twitter, all of them, they created a new space, information space. Information space has been existing since the dawn of the time, but they make a new mechanism to reach the information space. So when I look Mark Zuckerberg and everybody who created the social media, they created a new space which can be used for good and bad. But right now, when we look the crime and everything bad happening, cybercrime and cyberspace is different than information space, and cognitive warfare, information, influence operations, all of that. That's completely different space because that is what happens between your ears and behind your eyes. And one thing what we don't have is a human firewall. So what Mark Zuckerberg and all of them, when they created this whole new industry and whole new space, information space, what we are right now lacking is the defense mechanisms because these have to be built into humans.
Yeah. Last question for you. When it comes down to hacking nuclear plants, is that something that worries you at all?
Of course.
Is it easy to do?
Russia has a hacker conference which is strongly promoted and basically working for Russian government. It's called Positive Hack Days. It was about 23rd to 26th of May this year. And they had a number of capture the flag competitions and which were targeted in different areas of critical infrastructure. One of those were nuclear. And one of the award monies which have been reported was to pay for a hack to shut down the cooling system of a nuclear power plant, which was framed as stopping energy production. Well, it will stop the energy production, but it will cause some other problems too. So everything in the critical infrastructure has a long lifespan, and it's hard to upgrade. It's hard to secure because they are old and they have a long lifespan. Isolation, air gapping is the only way to keep those systems safe. The only way. And of course, we have the weakest link, which is humans. If you look Stuxnet, you have an air-gapped system, and then people were carrying around USB sticks, and off you go. So, of course, I'm worried. I would be stupid if I wouldn't be worried about nuclear power plant security. Because
I don't want to upset you. You seem like it's upsetting. I'm just asking an open-ended question.
No, I'm not upset. I'm just saying that this is one of the many things where when we look critical infrastructure, whether it's nuclear, power grid, water treatment, we have to pay more attention.
I mean, are you kidding me? Like, I'm looking at the website right now, which you're telling me, right? The conference.
Yeah.
This is hey, contest. Oh, but it says this hacker party is ground zero for Russia's cyber spies. Kremlin's intelligent officers, Russian traders, and Moscow's answer to the global dragon tattoos, they all gather at this cybersecurity conference. That is wild.
So
that is wild.
Now you understand why I got excited about critical infrastructure, because critical infrastructure is everything we need for keeping the society going. And if there's a conference where they are targeting indiscriminately civilian life, indiscriminately finding ways to disrupt civilian life, that's worrisome.
Yeah, it says, let me see here. So there's also some of the things that they don't like here. Held this year, technology complex and event central called Digital October, about a mile away from Kremlin. In 2014, attendees list included 2 of the GRU officers charged with breaching the Democratic National Committee, as well as 2 other key figures in Russia. Pavel Yavlovsky-Yershov was one of the attendees. A GRU officer by the name was charged with Robert. Now, this is getting into very interesting things. Either Russian intelligence officers went there to recruit or they went there to learn. My guess it's a combination of both. And so
this answers your question. Are people hiring hackers to?
Well, no. Listen, if you have to, anytime you're looking to size your enemy, you have to think like them.
Exactly.
So if a country hates America, wanted to destroy America, how would you do it? I'm hiring every single hacker in the world. I'm hiring 500 of you, paying each of you $1 million a year. You know what that budget is? $500 million a year. That's nothing.
Absolutely.
That's nothing. They're printing billions right now. I would hire you. I'd put you in a nice place. I'd bring you in. I would feed you good food if you're an evil leader that wants to put down the greatest country in the world, which is U.S., which is where you live, which is where I live, right? That would be the way to go. That's why I'm wondering, how often does your resume get shopped by people from Russia saying, "Hey, Harry, come on, kapazhivaytsi."
I come from Finland. We have the longest border with Russia. But the other thing is, you made a very good point. A lot of people in the US say, "Oh, I can think like an enemy." Critical thinking is not human. We humans build societies because we have inherent trust. And a lot of the things which are spin out of hacker culture, like social engineering, are exploiting that trust. So a lot of people say, I can think like an enemy. No, you are thinking like you wish your enemy would be thinking. But the enemy doesn't agree. It's actually a fiction writer, Robert Ludlum, who coined that phrase.
That is hilarious. So, okay. So what's the plan? Are you planning on keeping this, selling this, auctioning this off? By the way, for the folks that are listening to this, at this point, you know Harry is on Manect. You can ask him questions. I am sure you have a ton of questions. Go on Manect, download the app, ask them the questions. There's a list of questions that people have about this. I'm sure it's coming your way. I really enjoyed this. I'm not going to lie to you. I coming into it, I'm like, I don't know what's going to happen. I'm walking away with enough stories to tell for the next month, where it starts off with, "You will not believe who I spoke to the other day. This guy named Harry, let me tell you what he did." But anyways, it's great to have you here. Where would you like the audience to go look for you outside of Manect?
So I'm in LinkedIn, I'm in X.
You want to put your nonprofit?
Nonprofit, which we have Election Integrity Foundation, AF.vote. Please check, because we run the Voting Village, and we are educational. So DEFCON Voting Village is not about proving that voting machines can be hacked. Every voting machine can be hacked. We are educational. We want to dismiss the misinformation, disinformation, make sure that people have the right facts. And Voting Village single-handedly have hundredfolded the people who have a first-hand understanding what is true about voting machines, how the voting machines actually work. So our mission is educational, purely educational. We want to educate the stakeholders, the government officials, the policymakers, the people who are working for policymakers, and the general public about the truth. And truth here is that's why for years we have now been fighting against misinformation, disinformation, make sure that people have the facts in their hand.
Just keep your politics out of it. Try to stay as fair as possible. I know you give me the vibes of which way you lean politically. Just keep it out of it. Be fair.
We always, in Voting Village, we are non-partisan or bipartisan. We never want to do
fight
anything
each
partisan.
other. I have a feeling, I'm trying to see like 80% of hackers, based on what you're telling me, are liberals on the left who are fans of probably New York Times, CNN, and MSNBC. That's the vibe you're giving me, which I would prefer it be 50-50, but I don't think you guys sound like, because, you were not a fan of Musk, so I'm just trying to see where you would be with it. But anyways, either way, very educational. And I'm going to reconsider my vote for 2024. Maybe not even vote this year after talking to you. You have discouraged me from voting this year.
No, that's the wrong message.
I'm going to sit this one out.
Wherever you can vote, please vote. Don't let anything to discourage me. Whoever you vote doesn't matter.
This man is discouraging you to not vote. Never trust, always verify. Obviously, we're having a good time with you. I'm teasing you a little bit, but Hari, thanks for coming out, being a great sport. Truly.
Thank you.
I appreciate you. Thank you so much. Yes, this was great.
Hi, my name is Harry Hursty. I'm a lifelong hacker and security researcher, an engineer with a heart which thinks that impossible is just a state of mind. Connect with me in a minute. I'm here to explain anything you might wonder about election security, critical infrastructure security, cyberspace, cyber warfare, information space, information warfare, and connective warfare. So please ask me questions. Hope to see you there in a minute.
Poilievre is a liberal light. For Trump, dealing with Carney or dealing with Poilievre is the same. Poilievre is more against Trump, and he wants to go ahead and impose more tariffs. He tried to pander to that leftist electorate, but it is time to be serious. This country will be destroyed by mass immigration.
Why is he loved by his party?
Because when he did campaign, he was speaking like a real conservative.
The impression to me is like you're running to daddy to protect from a bully.
If we want to have a deal, we need to put that on the table. Carney is the globalist in chief.
What does it mean to be a Canadian?
Saying that we are putting Canada first, it's not a slogan for me, it's a reality. But for Poilievre, it's an empty slogan.
I still don't know what it is to be a Canadian. What is it to be a Canadian? That is just absolutely embarrassing.
And I understand Trump, and I'm ready to work with your president. We will do what is right. We are the only hope for Canada.
Did you ever think you would make it? I feel I'm supposed I could taste sweet victory. I know this life meant for me.
Adam, what's your point? The future looks bright.
Bet David.
My handshake is better than anything I ever signed. It's right here.
You are a one-of-one?
My son's right about
I don't think I've ever said this before.
All right, so here we go. So, guys, a few weeks ago, I went on a rant about Pierre Poilievre in Canada. And I called out the fact that he doesn't want to go sit with anybody. He's just waiting for this thing to happen to him, and he's automatically going to be handed everything over. And in the last couple days, he's made a few comments about Trump and retweeted a video that we'll watch here together and get a reaction to. While that happened, a lot of Canadians were not happy with me. A lot were very furious with me. But a lot were also in agreement, saying, you know what, please hold them accountable and challenge them to get out there. But throughout that time, I ran a poll, and a name was brought up to me. And they said, you have to look into Maxime Bernier. And I said, okay, great. I started watching videos, content. We started following each other. And the next thing you know, we have Maxime Bernier here from the People Party of Canada. It's great to have you here.
Thank you,
Yes.
Patrick. I'm very pleased to be here. That's a nice opportunity for me because, as you may know, in Canada, we may be in elections, couple of days. And so I'm traveling across the country, and I'm not afraid to do podcasts, and very pleased to be with you.
I respect the fact that you're doing it. I think one of the things we watched in the U.S., what happened was that Bobby Kennedy went to all the podcasts.
Yeah.
Vivek went to all the podcasts. Trump, with his son Barron, saying, "Hey, Dad, let's go." He went to all the podcasts, right? And Kamala didn't go.
Yeah.
And Ron DeSantis went on ours. We had a great conversation, but some would have said maybe you should have gone earlier, right? And a lot of Nikki Haley didn't want to go. These guys didn't want to go. They thought they were above it. And when I called out Pierre, a lot of Canadians says, you don't understand. If he goes on a conservative podcast, what the left is going to do, the left is going to attack him if he goes on Rogan, if he goes on this, he goes on. That's why in Canada it's very different than America. So walk me through the fear that conservatives have in Canada being so frightened of liberals holding them hostage.
Poilievre and the conservative, and I said that long time ago, that they're conservative in name only. They're the Reno Canadians, conservative in name only. They're afraid. Why? Because also in Canada, we are mainstream media, Radio-Canada in French, CTV, CBC. They are all leftist. So, and actually, we don't have a Fox News in Canada on the other side. So for me, the Canadian population has been manipulated by the leftist media. So Poilievre is afraid of the reaction coming from the leftist media. But, he must understand, as a politician, we are in 2025, and the future is with independent media, podcasters, and you must go out there and explain your platform. But he doesn't want to do that also because he's afraid of the reaction, yes, of the mainstream media, and also because he cannot have a discussion right now. We don't know what he believes in right now. He's keeping secret his platform. We'll know that during the election. So now he's speaking only with slogan, and for me, it's empty slogan. And, there's a lot of people, real conservative base, are not happy with him because now he's doing campaign not against the liberals, but against Trump. And you must know that in Canada, they did a survey before the presidential election, and 65% of Canadians said in that survey that they will have voted for Harris and the Democrats. So for Poilievre, he tried to pander to that leftist electorate and try to have their support. By doing that, is going away from real conservative values, and the real conservative values, free market values, are not so popular today in Canada. So we need to be out there and to speak about our ideas. And that's what I'm doing as politicians. And that's why I left. And I quit the Conservative Party of Canada in 2018. And I said that this party is morally and intellectually corrupt because they won't promote conservative ideas. And by doing that, they're giving credibility to the leftist narrative. And that's what Poilievre is doing now. And people are not happy with him. Like you're not happy with him because he's not doing his job as a real conservative, and he's not.
Yeah, to me, it's the reason why I respect Trump as much as I do, as well as Bobby Kennedy. Anytime, any place, anywhere, and not afraid of the leftist media.
Yeah.
And in America, you got to respect that.
Yeah.
And when you looked at Kamala or some of the other guys, it wasn't anytime, any place, anywhere. It just was. It had to be controlled. Here's the questions you get to ask me. You better ask this. Nothing more than this. So I want to play the clip you and I were talking about earlier. This is Pierre playing a clip. Rob, if you can go to my Twitter account. Go up a little bit, keep going. I think it's the one, two above. Go two above. No, the other way, Rob. Go two above, right there. Go down to Ben & Jerry. It's right there. So go to Pierre's if you could, and let me just first read what he says, and then I want to get your commentary on it. So he says, last night, President Trump endorsed Mark Carney. Why? Because as Trump said, he's easier to deal with and knows that I will be a tough negotiator and always put Canada first. Carney is weak and would cave to Trump's demands, just like he did when he moved his company headquarters from Canada to New York City. Canadians don't want a weak and conflicted leader. They want a strong prime minister who will put Canada first. So now let me play the clip. Here's Trump. Rob, if you can play the clip of Trump, what he says here. Go for it.
Isn't that going to make them more hostile to us and possibly
I'd rather
open the
deal
door
with a liberal than a
for
conservative.
China closer to Canada, and that would really put us in a bind.
The conservative that's running is stupidly no friend of mine. I don't know him, but he said negative things. So when he says negative things, I couldn't care less. I think it's easier to deal, actually, with a liberal.
Isn't that going to be...
So when I posted this, Rob, go back to my tweet because I want to show you what people said. Okay, just go to the bottom of the comments to show what Canadians said. So some people said, right there. If you can go lower. I've been to Canada. Okay. Maxime Bernier is the only politician in Canada that can actually understand this. Pierre has never had an actual job outside of politics. He's a World Economic Forum uniparty shield through and through. He's a useless, whatever politician. He's no leader. You're wrong here, Pat. Trump is doing Poilievre a favor by saying he'd prefer liberals. This is an endorsement for the PP. His policies do exactly what Trump wants. Energy, pipelines, oil. Canada's got a lot of those things. Poilievre and Carney are hood ornaments. Do you have any suggestions? On a serious note, thanks for saying PM and not governor. Patrick, I think Trump understands this endorsement, especially framed in a term of being a pushover will hurt Carney. He is mitigating the side effect that his tariff policy was driving up liberal support. Pierre has to posture to keep that illusion alive. Who's right here?
Yeah, I think that, President Trump is right because Poilievre right now and the liberals, Carney, are the same on the most important issues for the future of our country. And we can go on these issues later. And right now, for me, it's a LibCon party. And so, instead of, and people in Canada now, if you look in the polls, again, it's a bad news, but the Liberals are ahead right now, and the election may be called as soon as in a couple of days. Why? Because Poilievre is a liberal light. And instead of, voting conservative, liberal light, they will vote for the real liberal. And the real liberal is Carney. So for Trump, dealing with Carney or dealing with Poilievre is the same. And so we are very different as a political party. We are this populist political party, a little bit like Trump. And on a lot of policies, our party is in line with Trump. On tariffs, we can have a discussion about that. We have a different position than Poilievre, but Poilievre is doing the war against Trump using tariffs and, imposing tariffs and taxes on us Canadians. And for him, like I told you in the beginning, because Trump is not popular in Canada and I think he think that, by being against Trump, that will help him in Canada. But, the most important is the policies, and is very disappointing on that. And
okay, so let's go through that. So let's take what percentage of Canada are conservatives? Conservatives, specifically conservatives. What would you say?
Well, you have Western Canada, Alberta. Alberta, Western Canada. Right now there's about a big, 40% of the population
that are conservatives.
That are ready to vote conservative.
Okay, so of the 40%, and by the way, conservative,
including us. We are the real conservative.
For sure. You and Pierre, whatever party, those two, conservative party, you're saying there's about 40% of them. Of the 40% of voters in Canada that are conservative, okay, what percentage of them like Trump?
If you look, they did a survey in Canada for people who voted for the conservative and will vote for Poilievre. 25% of his base like Trump, 25% of his voters.
Got it.
For me, it's about 50% of my voters who like Trump. So, and now by doing that, his goal is to split the liberal vote, to go ahead and to split the liberal vote. But it's at a big risk of losing his base, 25% of his base. And so for us, we can grow there, but for us, our growth will come from non-voters. There's 40% of the population who didn't vote at the last election. And they don't vote because they don't like these establishment political parties and Poilievre and Carney and Trudeau. So we are the option, the new option for them. So our growth can be coming from these non-voters that may come and vote for us.
Okay, so for his base, out of the 40%, you said 25% like Trump, 75% don't like Trump. Okay. From your base, 50% like...
At least 50%.
Okay.
But we don't do any polling. We don't do any focus
You're
group.
assuming. So it could be 60, 70%.
Yeah.
Okay, from the conservatives that don't like Trump, why don't they like... What about Trump do they not like in his policies?
But now it's the tariff. Trump, because of the mainstream media, they're saying, oh, Trump is against Canada. Trump wants to, invade our country. Trump wants our country to be the 51st state. So they're nationalists, and they said, and they believe that. The mainstream media and the liberals and the conservative like that, like the fact that Trump said, we will be, or we may be, or that will be great if we are the 51st state. They like it because now they say, no, we are defending the sovereignty of our country. But all that, it's just, when Trump is saying that, for me, he's not serious. He's just, having fun against our leaders. He knows that we don't like it. He's using that, telling our prime minister, the governor of Canada. It's, I did read his book, The Art of a Deal, and that's the way he's doing deals. Discredit his opponent, and he's doing that and using that. But in Canada, it's good for the Liberals. They are saying, we are the defender of the country. But they are not. Their policy will be very bad for the country. And I said politically, and when I'm doing interviews, that we are the only hope for Canada if our policies are not adopted, or not be adopted in Parliament. This country is going nowhere. We need to change that, and we have bold policies that are in line. And when I'm saying that we are putting Canada first and our country first, it's not a slogan for me. It's a reality. But for Poilievre, it's an anti-slogan.
So in 2018, when you left the Conservative Party, who was Poilievre? Who was he at the time? Did he have credibility? Was he famous? Did he already have influence, or no?
No. So for me, I'm not a career politician. I did work 19 years in the financial sector in Montreal. I did good money over there. 2006, I jumped into politics with Harper, and I was a Minister of Foreign Affairs, Minister of Industry, and Poilievre was elected at that time. Poilievre was elected at 24 years old, never had a real boss. He's, for the last 20 years, his job is to be a politician in Parliament.
So he's a lifelong politician.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. No private sector experience.
Ever?
No.
Before 24, nothing.
24 years old, I think the first job was working in an MP office in Ottawa.
NPR office in Ottawa.
Yeah, working with a member of Parliament in Ottawa, in his office.
Got it. So it's always been politics. He has zero free enterprise, free market experience.
Zero.
Okay.
So this guy is doing politics by survey, focus group, and, he tried to please everybody. But when you do that, you're not able to win.
Can you give an example of that? When you say he tries to please everybody, what examples do you have?
On mass immigration. In Canada, we have mass immigration right now, and that's destroying our social fabric. We had more than 1.2 million foreigners coming to our country.
Saw that.
And for a country of 40 million people, that's a lot. Actually, the growth of our population last year was 3.2%, and the average growth of population in the Western countries was 0.2%. And 97% of our population growth is coming from immigration. So if you go like that for a couple of years, that's the replacement, theory, but in practice in Canada. So for him, he's not speaking about that. He's okay with mass immigration like the Liberals. And we are not. We are the only party that is saying we need to have a pause on immigration, a moratorium on immigration, because, that is affecting economically Canadians. Our standard of living is going down. Inflation is up, and we have ghettos in our country. People are not integrating into our society. So it's a big mess, and we need to have that pause. So what I'm telling you is pandering to the ethnic communities like Trudeau. So Poilievre is doing the same game, because in some ridings in Canada, to win and to have a majority, in Toronto, for example, there's a lot of ridings over there, a seat over there, more than in Alberta. So, and that region, there's a lot of immigrants, and they want to have more of their friends coming to Canada. So Poilievre is pandering to them to be sure to win these ridings, knowing that the majority of the population don't want that mass immigration anymore. but he's not listening to them because for him, he's looking riding by riding, and he need to seat by seat, which seat he will be able to win to be in government.
So it's interesting you're saying that. While I'm pulling this up, by the way, in 2018, who was he? Somebody in 2018?
In
2018 when you left the was he a upcoming guy or not yet?
Not yet. No.
When did he become a superstar?
Only 2 years ago, when he decided to run because the other leader, O'Toole, was a real leftist.
The Conservative Party.
I was in politics in 2006, and 2015 Harper didn't win. 2017 we had a leadership contest in the Conservative Party. I did run. I had 49% of the vote. Didn't win. Scheer was the leader at that time. I resigned from the Conservative Party in 2018, and Scheer was the leader in 2019. We had a general election. The Liberal won. And after Scheer, they had another leadership contest, the Conservative. They put O'Toole, and O'Toole was a real, leftist guy. And after that, they put Poilievre, and Poilievre was a star because he was good with videos. And I must admit, he's a good communicator. And so he was good. And during the leadership contest, he was speaking like a real conservative to be sure to win the base. So he was speaking like a real conservative. But after that, when he won, he went to the left and to try to please to more people in Canada. And so answering your question, he became to be popular maybe only 3 years ago.
So Erin O'Toole
was a leader before him.
And then it was Andrew Scheer.
I lost my leadership against him.
You lost your leadership against him.
In 2017.
So when they chose him, you said, I'm out. And you're starting your own thing.
Yeah, I'll tell you. 49% of the members of the Conservative Party did vote for me. So after that leadership contest, I did work 15 months with Andrew Scheer as my leader. But I had a private meeting with him, and 15 months later, he told me, and I want him to take some of my policies and ideas. They were very popular with the membership. So we had a meeting, and he said, Maxime, you're right. Your ideas are very popular with the membership of the Conservative Party of Canada, but I won't take any of your ideas because now I want to be Prime Minister of Canada, and your ideas are not popular with the population. So at the next election in 2019, forget your ideas. So that's why
He's saying that to you face to face in a one-on-one meeting.
Yeah.
Is this public information when he said this to you?
Yeah, but I'm putting that public.
You've never said this before. So in one-on-one, he's telling you because your policies are not popular.
I won't take any of
because he wants to be a prime minister.
Yeah, and they're doing politics by polling and survey. So and then I said, I don't have to waste my time here. They are not, and that's why I resigned in 2018 after 15 months when he won the leadership. When he told me that, I resigned. I said, and I took these ideas and we created the People's Party based on these ideas. And, this party is growing now. But they don't want to speak about something that is not that popular today. So that's why they're conservative in name only.
How close is he to Pierre?
Scheer now?
Scheer and
he's number 3 with him right now.
So they're close? They're
close friends, yeah.
Okay, so they're close friends. Again, I'm trying to get smarter. I don't know Canadian politics. Yeah. O'Toole, is he close with Pierre or no?
O'Toole resigned. He's not a member of parliament anymore. He's in the private sector, so forget it.
So is he any name in politics in Canada or not really? Nobody mentions O'Toole.
No.
He doesn't have endorsement.
Right,
he doesn't carry weight.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
When is the last time you and Pierre had interaction together?
When I was a conservative. So 2015.
How was that interaction with
him?
Good.
Pierre and I, we had good conversation. And at that time, when I was a conservative, he was pushing in the caucus privately conservative reform. But now because he's the leader, and so he forgot all that. But I must admit that Stephen Harper was prime minister, and I was working with him. Stephen Harper was a libertarian and less government, but he did the biggest deficit of the history of our country during the financial crisis. And so Stephen Harper had a majority, and he didn't use the majority to implement bold reforms. And Stephen Harper was a good manager of a big fat government, and Poilievre will be the same if he's prime minister.
Is Stephen Harper respected and loved in Canada or no?
Yeah, now after he resigned, and I think so. Yeah, with the conservatives in Canada. And Stephen Harper is giving advice to Poilievre right now.
And Poilievre is following his footsteps.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so all right, so that's good to know. So a couple things here when you said immigration. I want to show you something with immigration, which was shocking to me when I pulled up the data. So I looked at what countries most residents, new permanent residents, are coming into Canada. Because a number starts around 2022. Rob, if you can show up the data that shows the spike in immigration, it's that one right there. So you look at this, the net international migration from 1952 to 2023, you're getting some people coming in, maybe 200,000 on average, 100,000 on average. All of a sudden, boom, 1.2 million. And I looked at the numbers. In 2022, the number one country that immigrants came in from, 27% was India, 118. China's number 2, then Afghanistan, Nigeria, Philippines, France, Pakistan, Iran, U.S., then Syria. This is 2022. 2023, India, China, Philippines, Afghanistan, Nigeria, Pakistan, Cameroon, Eritrea, Iran, U.S. 2024, India, Philippines, China, Cameroon, Nigeria, Afghanistan, Pakistan, Iran, France. Okay. Then I pulled up a number just to kind of see. In Canada, in 1991, according to the Canadian census, the Muslim population in Canada was 0.9%. The Muslim population today in Canada is 5%. Okay. That's based on your census that you have.
You're right about it.
And then the other number that was also shocking is in 2023, population grew by 1.27 million in Canada. Of the people that grew, the number of kids that you guys had that contributed to the 1.27 million was only 2.4%. 97.6% were people that came in from other countries. That's not necessarily a growth that some people would call that an invasion. So
a replacement.
Right. Replacement could be one of them. So how different are your policies versus Poilievre when it comes onto this?
Poilievre is okay with mass immigration. His number right now is 250 foreigners every year, starting if he's prime minister. 250,000. For us, it's zero. No more. We are not able to integrate them into our society, and that's destroying our social fabric. The countries that you just quote, a lot of them are not sharing Western civilization values. And we don't do any screening. We must change that. When we will reopen to immigration, we need to have a face-to-face interview with them. We don't have that anymore. We need to be sure that they share Canadian values. In Canada, don't forget also, we have a legislation in Canada, and the federal government is promoting multiculturalism. So we are saying to people, come to our country, keep your culture, and, everything is okay. If you don't integrate into our society, it's okay. So we have Indian ghettos in BC, Burnaby. We have ghettos also in Brampton, Ontario. And there's no incentive for them to come and to integrate into our society. And actually, before that, we were asking them to speak at least English or French. We have 2 official languages in Canada, English and French. That was a condition a couple of years ago to come to Canada, to be an immigrant. And now it's not anymore. So they don't speak the language. They're going in a ghetto. They don't integrate. That's changing the social fabric of our country. But Poilievre won't speak about that. He's pandering to these ethnic communities to have votes in different ridings and more seats. So that's what he's doing. That is part of his strategy. Because now, all these immigrants that are coming, they're foreigners, they will vote conservative or they will vote liberal. But if you do a big survey, 65% of the population is okay to end mass immigration in Canada. And also a majority of immigrants, but older immigrants, people who came here 15 years ago because it was tough for them to come here. They had to speak English and French, and they have to prove that they will have a job. It was tough. It took them maybe years. And now they're looking at that. Everybody can come in Canada with no screening, nothing. It's unfair, and they don't want that, and they're right about it.
Yeah, that makes sense. And by the way, when you're speaking about to the audience in Canada, what comparison are you making? What comp? Meaning, let's just say if I'm buying a house, and I say I'm willing to buy this house for $900,000, but Mr. Realtor, what are the comps on the property? The guy next door sold for $820. The house next door sold for $817. The house next door that's similar size to you sold $805. It's not really a $900,000 house. It's really an $815,000 house. Okay, great. I'm getting comps. What country, when you guys are looking what Canada can turn into if it goes this way, the next 5, 10, 15, 20 years, what do you see happening if they don't change their immigration policies?
If we don't change our immigration policy, our standard of living will go down. Right now, the impact of mass immigration on housing, like you just said,
it's scary what's going on there with real estate.
Yeah, it's scary. A young family cannot buy a house downtown Toronto, downtown Montreal, or downtown Vancouver. And the solution for that, it's a question of, supply and demand. And my solution is just cut the demand. All these people need a roof, and you need to stop that. But for Poilievre, he said we need to build more houses. But actually, 10 years ago, we were building in Canada about 250,000 houses a year, 10 years ago. And now we are still building 250,000 houses a year. And Statistic Canada said that just to match the demand, we need to build 700,000 houses a year. So that's not the solution for the housing crisis in our country. The solution is to have that moratorium on immigration. And I'm not speaking about, the fact that the standard of, the pie, the economic pie is growing in Canada because you have so many people, but the GDP per capita is going down. So our piece of the pie is smaller. Yeah, because the population is growing faster than the GDP. So all that mass immigration, created, the fact that we are poor for the last 10 years, we didn't grow. Our GDP per capita didn't grow. So that's why people are okay with ending mass immigration. But I'm the only one who's speaking about that in Canada.
Yeah, and the question I want to come back to this because Canada's number 2 country in lumber in the world. I think you guys are behind Russia.
Yeah.
And the average house right now is $786,000. Who the hell can afford that?
Yeah.
Let's come back to that. But I want to talk to you still on case studies. When I was looking at what Poland did, Dominic Tarczynski, where he said nobody can come here, they're not for immigration, and they don't want to go by the demands that EU has with what happened with UK, of course, UK Brexit. There's a fellow who had a video that went viral in Canada talking about Sharia law. I want to share this with you. I want to get your thoughts to see how people in Canada feel about this. Is this even a concern that other families are bringing up? Rob, if you don't mind playing this clip, it'd be great. Go for it.
By 2060, Muslims will be the biggest religious group the world over. What are you going to do then? Actually, are you going to oppose Sharia even then? We have families, we are making babies. You're not. Our population is going down the slump. One day we can have a Muslim majority nation here in Canada. Right in your face.
You say that you want Sharia law to displace Canadian law. That doesn't sound very respectful.
In majority, you wouldn't have any other option, my friend. Islam doesn't endorse gayism. Islam doesn't endorse homosexuality. The gay people are doing is against the commandments of God.
We have Canadian law here, and you say that you want Sharia law to displace Canadian law. That doesn't sound very respectful.
In majority,
you can pause it
have
right
any
there,
other option.
Is this a concern in Canada that Canada can turn into the next UK of the West?
Not now. Not now, but when I'm speaking, I'm telling that to people, like in France, there's no go zone over there. In UK also, because of mass immigration and the non-integration of these immigrants. And but it's coming more and more. People are fed up more and more.
About this specific topic, because the Muslim population in Canada grown from 1991 till now from 0.9% to 5%.
Yeah.
That's 500%. That's a big growth that they've had. Is that a concern? Because those
it's becoming a concern. For example, in Toronto, now they're a pressure group. The Muslim community are pressuring, provincial governments to adopt some, laws that will, financial law that will be in line with their philosophy to be, as you know, they cannot pay interest. So there's kind of an arrangement and some regulations at the provincial level to allow them to be able to have, a mortgage without paying any interest. So they are coming more and more influential politically. The answer is yes. But in the main population, that's not a real concern. The real concern is mass immigration now. There's no focus. But we need, radical Islam is present in Canada. That ideology is there. We need to fight that for sure.
What is this, Rob? They just pulled up.
This is a chart showing from 2001 to 2021, just in 20 years, that the Muslim population in Canada has more than doubled from 2.0% to 4.9% across the country.
Yeah.
How is crime in Canada? I'm curious.
Oh, my God. Very bad. Very bad because for Trudeau, he was not tough on crimes. And, we did pass legislation when I was a conservative at that time to be really tough on crime. But now, crimes in big cities are, I don't have the data, but if you look at the statistic, they're doubled at what they were 10 years ago. So, yeah, you can see that in Canada.
It's doubled from, you said, from...
Yeah, the last 10 years. Yeah.
And this, okay, so is that a...
And that's a concern, actually. And that's why I'm very pleased what President Trump did. President Trump decided to actually...
Wow.
Look at that, yeah.
When did Trudeau get elected?
2015.
Look at that.
Yeah, 2015.
Oh, my God.
Yeah. And Trump, what I like from Trump, he said, protect your borders. Be sure to fight crimes and all these drug traffickers. And now, after 9 years, Trudeau decided and the Liberal government decided to do that. But we needed Trump to push our government to work for Canadians. The first role of a leader of a country is to protect your population. The government, the first role of a government is the safety of their own citizens. And the Liberals did zero yet the last 9 years. And now, because of Trump, now the federal government is investing and fighting crimes. It's new, but it's coming. But look, yeah, that's the after.
And by the way, you mentioned Stephen Harper, right? Yeah. You said Stephen Harper. So Stephen Harper
was prime minister
from 06 till 15.
Yes.
Right. Go back to that chart, Rob. So if you go from 2006, declined from what it was to what did he do to lower crime the way that he did in Canada? That's very impressive.
Yeah, we passed legislation, and actually, but the bad thing is all our legislation that we passed at that time, minimum sentences and things like that, the Supreme Court of Canada said it's unconstitutional. So a couple of years later, these legislation are not in force anymore, and Trudeau was happy with that, and look what happened.
Wow. Okay, so let's go back to real estate. Real estate in Canada, you said the current, we've been building 250,000 on average, the last, I think the number was, whatever it was 10 years ago, it's what you're doing today.
It's the same number
today. It's the same number today, yes. But the average property value right now in Canada, we looked at the number, was $786,000 for single-family homes. That amazes me.
Yeah, in big cities, Toronto, Montreal, Vancouver. Not in little cities, but yeah, that's
what
very
does it say here? Right there. So if you look at the average selling price of a home in Canada increased by 0.1%, year over year, 709. The average selling price of a single family home in Canada increased to 786. When you look at the amount of supply and things that you have, why hasn't somebody in the last 10 years emphasized investing in building more to be able to lower pricing so when a new family is getting married, having kids, they can't afford to buy $786,000.
And actually, there's a link also with our birth rate, because they did a survey with young family. And one of the reasons why they decided not to have kids, it's because they want to have a home before. And actually, that was, personally, I had 2 daughters. And yes, me and my ex-wife decided to buy a house before having kids. So they cannot buy a house and they're not having kids. So that's another relations. But why? If you ask me why, we must ask the Liberal government. There's a lot of regulations also in big cities. And so there's no incentive for provinces to cut down on regulations. And it's if you want to build something in a big city in Canada and to have all the permits, it can take months. So that's another big problem that we have.
Rob, can you pull up the birth rate in Canada? I just pulled it up right now. I'm looking at it. Canada's fertility rate is amongst the lowest in the world, placing it in the lowest of the low category.
Yeah.
With a rate of 1.26. Right now you have it at 1.33. I have it at 1.26. Children born per woman in 2023. That's a 2022 rate. Joining countries like South Korea, Spain, Italy, and Japan.
So the logic that's the logic for mass immigration. They're saying our birth rate is going down. Let's bring all these people. But these people are not young. Usually they're about an average of 30 years old or something like that. They're not so young, and so that's not the solution. The solution is easy. Cut that mass immigration, do all these bold reform, balance the budget, cut taxes, being sure to give more money in the pockets of these families, and they would be able to have a kid if they want to.
Yeah, that is scary to think about the birth rate. By the way, I just pulled up a number to see if it can break down what percentage. It's not breaking down percentage, it's telling me numbers on what age they are, the people that are coming in. But birth rate, let's go to that.
But they're not so young. So Statistic Canada, I think they did a survey about that. If you like, Statistic Canada average age of immigrants, something like that.
Canada, 64, 25 to 54. The median age of immigrants.
So,
wow.
Yeah. So
wow.
That's
47 years old.
Yeah, that's not the solution.
They're not going to have kids. 47-year-olds.
No.
Wow.
And you told us the country where they're coming from. They're not coming from Europe or from America or other countries. They're coming from. That's why I tweeted and I said that when you import third world people coming from third world countries, your country will become a third world country. And that's what is happening. That's changing the social fabric of our country. And that's why populist movement in UK, in France, in Germany are growing because of immigration. And that's the same thing here in Canada.
Yeah, I just pulled this up. I asked the question saying, why does Canada have such a low birth rate? And it says economic factors.
Yeah.
Housing in cities like Toronto, Vancouver, Montreal.
Yeah.
Job market. Many young Canadians struggle for job security, high student debt.
But now with mass immigration, we are importing cheap labor, and so that's a problem. Now, you said in India we had a lot of fake students coming from India. They came here, they had a fake diploma, and usually when you are an international student, you come here, you study, and you leave after that. You're going back to your country of origin. They don't want to leave. They use that to be permanent residents. And after their diploma, they want to stay here. And Poilievre and Trudeau said, okay, we'll give you the permanent residency. So these people are cheating. They don't want to go back to their country. And Poilievre and the Liberals are saying, it's okay, we'll give you a gift. You don't respect our legislation, but we will give you a gift. We will give you permanent residency. That's the position of these.
Is that really his position?
Yeah.
That is really Poilievre's position is permanent residency for anybody that's come the last 30 years of getting permanent residence?
That's to solve the international students that are coming to Canada. They want to stay, and he's pandering to them. And look, international students from India.
What's the title say, Rob?
I'm not sure if this is the right article.
Would cut population liberal signaling immigration. The radical, out of control NDP liberal government has destroyed our 7%. Yeah, I want to know what he says about making them permanent residents.
Yeah, he said that for the students. I don't know for the international students.
So he said he's going to make
the India international students. They will have the right. He said they will have the right to work here. More than 10 hours a week, and they will have the right to stay here after that. So that's what he wants. But actually, these and you can find a video of me speaking with an international students in PI, and they did protests all across the country. And I said in his face, after your diploma, if you don't leave the country, we will deport you. And I said that, I don't know, a video from this one here.
Can I hear this? Rob, hang on, pause it because I want to put the... Go for it.
Now you can stay, but when they're going to be expired...
We will see at that moment.
Yeah, but what I'm saying, if some of you have their permit that
Nobody is standing here is illegal. They have their permits.
But in your group of 100 people.
Nobody is expired. If they would have been expired, they would have been deported.
Okay, but they will be deported when it be expired.
This is why. No, they won't be deported.
You just said that when it's going to be expired, they will be deported.
They will be legalizing their stay. No deportation will be needed in that moment.
But we will need deportation.
That's why you need to have full knowledge. You are a leader. I think you should have a full knowledge before you get in here.
I have a full knowledge. I'm saying when the permit is expired, you must be deported.
You're saying my permit is expired. It isn't.
No, if it's not, but it will be in a couple of weeks or in a couple of months.
I can extend it.
But I hope they won't, because we don't need
they
you.
Will.
No, we don't need you here in this country.
How can you decide it?
Because
for example, listen to
there's
me.
Canadians, there's young Canadians that can work at Tim Hortons.
Then they can. I'm not working.
Unbelievable, the level of audacity to say that.
They think that they have, the right to stay here.
Nowadays, more than ever, the brand you wear reflects and represents who you are. So for us, if you wear a Future Looks Bright hat or a Valuetainment gear, you're telling the world, I'm optimistic. I'm excited about what's going to be happening, but you're a free thinker. You question things. You like debate. And by the way, last year, 120,000 people got a piece of Future Looks Bright gear with Valuetainment. We have so many new things. The cufflinks are here. New Future Looks Bright. This is my favorite, the green one. Just yesterday, somebody placed an order for 100 of these. If you watch the PBD podcast, you got a bunch to choose from. White ones, black ones. If you smoke cigars and you come to our cigar lounge, we have this high quality lighter cutter and a holder for the cigars. We got sweaters with the Valuetainment logo on it. We got mugs. We got a bunch of different things. But if you believe the future looks bright, if you follow our content and what we represent with Valuetainment, with PBD Podcast, go to vtmerch.com. And by the way, if you order right now, there's going to be a special VT gift inside just for you. So again, go to vtmerch.com, place your order, tell the world that you believe the future looks bright. And where was that fellow from? Where was he from?
India.
He's from India.
Oh, yeah.
That's number one, where it's coming from.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So what would you
And
do?
also, don't forget, universities and colleges are using that for financing their operation because they're paying more fees to come here than Canadians. It's more expensive for them than Canadians. So actually, some universities are very happy with that. It's a way because the federal government and provincial governments are cutting funding to universities. So they use the international students to finance their operations. So that's also, and I told you, university, no, you won't use that trick to be able to have more money. Just raise your fees if you want to.
So what is your solution on two things? What are you going to do to fix immigration, and what are you going to do to increase birth rate? Because the economy is what you got to address for families to decide to want to have kids. How are you going to address those two issues?
So first, the moratorium on immigration, no more immigrants. And so that's important. Second, that's all about the economy. So we want to balance the budget in Canada. We can do that in 1 year. We will cut foreign aid, $8 billion. We'll save that. We'll cut corporate subsidies, $10 billion. Our deficit in Canada this year is $62 billion. So we can achieve that. Poilievre is not speaking about that because it's not popular to speak about cutting. We will cut. We'll have a smaller government in Canada. We'll have our Canadian Dodge. I said that in 2020 that, we need to have a department of downsizing the government. I said that in 2020. So we will do that. We'll balance the budget. We'll lower taxes. We'll have a flat tax on business at 15%. We have 5 tax brackets in Canada right now on your income. We'll go down to 3, and the goal is go down to 1. So reforming the federal government, downsizing the federal government, respecting our constitution. Right now, the federal government is a big fat government interfering in provincial jurisdiction and provincial autonomy. We'll do that. We'll be able and we have also a capital gains tax in Canada. We will cut that. No more capital gains tax in Canada. So lowering taxes, and we don't have a real free trade in Canada. This country has been built in 1867. And the reason that we exist as a country first was to have an economic union in Canada, to be able to compete against you guys in the South. That was the idea, to have an economic union. And now we don't have that. There's trade barriers between provinces. So we need to have a real economic union. We need to work about that. We need also to develop our natural resources. In my own province, in Quebec, there's a moratorium on the development of shale gas, for example. And so we need to be real pro-market and be able to develop natural resources. To do that, we need to withdraw from the Paris Accord. But Poilievre is okay with that. Poilievre, I must admit, he won't impose a carbon tax to Canadian consumers, but he will impose more regulation on businesses. He will give subsidies to the green industry because, he will do everything to achieve the Paris Accord targets. We won't. We will withdraw from that like President Trump. So, yes, we need to have that big, and bold reforms at the federal level to be sure to have a smaller government being able to lower taxes and be giving more money in pockets of families.
How do you, because when I watch how he manages the relationship with President Trump, and you see President Trump saying what he's saying about, Mark Carney, and yeah. how are you able to manage working with the president when the president is saying Canada 51st state? Are you at all even open to the idea of Canada 51st state, or that's just he's just toying with you? That's kind of how you view it. But what is your approach on, let's just say you end up becoming a prime minister? What is your approach going to be on dealing with President Trump?
I'm not open to the 51st state. I'm doing like Trump in Canada. I'm fighting for Canadians and for the sovereignty of our country. I'm putting my people first. So the way to deal with President Trump, it's, you need to, right now, we have a free trade agreement between us, the U.S., and Mexico. And that will have to be reopened in 2026. We need to reopen that free trade agreement right now, and we need to put everything on the table. For example, President Trump is the one who negotiated the free trade agreement when he was president at his first term, and he wanted for your dairy producers to be able for them to export their milk in Canada. But because we have a cartel, a system called the supply management, our dairy, poultry, and eggs producers are producing only for the Canadian market. They cannot export, and they are fixing the price. They call that supply management. It's a legal cartel. So, and Trump was not so happy at the last negotiation because, we said, no, we want, we have to protect the cartel, and we want open our borders to your milk, cheese, and eggs. So we need to put that on the table. But Poilievre and Trudeau, they want to protect the cartel. They're very influential. Actually, they did buy membership cards of the Conservative Party of Canada when I was running to be the leader to be sure that I won't win, because I said at that time, 10 years ago, we need to abolish that cartel, and it will be good for Canadian consumers because we are paying twice the price if we compare that price with prices in the U.S. for milk, poultry, and eggs because of that cartel. So let's put that on the table. I'm the only one who's saying that. We will be able to have a good deal. And Trump said, if you're imposing tariff, I will impose tariff. If you withdraw your tariff, I will do the same. I believe in free trade. Let's do a real free trade. But right now, there's 300% tariffs on the milk, and you cannot export your milk in Canada because you won't be competitive with that tariff of 300%. But it's not only with milk, it's a lot of other products. We don't have a free trade between Canada and U.S. We have a managed trade. Trump wants to have, a fair relationship. Let's abolish all these tariffs. It will be good for us and good for you. So first, put everything on the table. Be sure to reinvest to protect our borders. Be sure to reinvest also in our own defense. We are not doing that. We need to at least spend 2% of our GDP in our defense. We're not doing that. It's maybe 1.2% or something like that. We need also to have a new defense relationship with the U.S. And, Trump is a little bit concerned about the north, our border in the north with Russia, and the Arctic. We need to be sure we don't have a base over there as Canadians. So we need to reinvest there. We need to protect and have a new agreement, defense agreement with you guys, so we can do that. If we do that, I'm pretty sure that we'll have a good deal. When Trump is speaking about, Governor Trudeau, 51st state, for me, it won't happen. It's not serious. But what I understand also, he wants to bring back manufacturing industry in the U.S., including, businesses from Canada. So what we have to do as a country, we need to have, economic policies that will be more competitive. So our, income tax on business is too high. So let's let the free market decide. But I want to compete with U.S. and I want our businesses to be able to compete with you guys. But now they're not able. That's why there's tariffs. So we need to lower tax on business, cut capital gains tax, less regulation. And like that's the only way to build our country and to be competitive.
So with regards to him getting closer to Carney, when he's talking about coming to tariffs, what are Canadians saying that Mark did to get Trump to feel more comfortable doing a deal with him than with Pierre? Why is he feeling more comfortable with Mark instead of Poilievre?
I think because first, Poilievre is speaking about, a bigger trade war with U.S. Poilievre is the first one who said, we must impose dollar for dollar tariffs. And now Carney is going away from that. Carney and the Liberals did impose 25% tariffs on us, on Canadians. Don't forget the 25% tariffs that Trump is imposing right now. It's on American businesses and American consumers. They're the one who will pay for that. Our products will be less competitive, but at the end, that's American consumers who are paying for that. So what we did, counter tariffs, 25%, and that was a bad idea. I was the only leader to say, you must not impose that. We cannot win a trade war with the U.S., and that will be our consumers, Canadian businesses and Canadians consumers who will pay for that. It's another tax on Canadians. So Carney did impose that with the Liberals. But Carney said recently, I won't go dollar for dollar because he said what I'm saying right now, and what I said before, we cannot compete against the U.S. in a trade war. But Poilievre is more, is more against Trudeau, not Trudeau, but Trump, and he wants to go ahead and impose more tariffs. So maybe that's why also Trump doesn't like him.
And isn't Mark's background was he with the Bank of London? Who was he with? He had a financial background, right? Goldman. Okay, there's Goldman Sachs, Bank of Canada. So he knows how to make deals. So maybe Trump feels more comfortable talking to a business guy than a guy that's a career politician like
absolutely. Pierre. Yeah, you have a point there.
Got it. That's interesting. So,
but also Carney is the globalist in chief. Carney was the special envoy for the UN on climate action and finance. So Carney is a big believer in climate change. And he's a big globalist also. We must admit that. But yes, he was in the private sector. He's a business guy. So maybe Trump think that he will be able to have a better deal with a guy that knows business.
Does Pierre have a history of being able to make deals and be a diplomat and negotiate with others and get people from across the aisle to want to talk to him and get deals done, or no?
No, he was.
What is his biggest accomplishment? What's Pierre's biggest accomplishment?
He was a junior. Can you put that on, Pierre Poilievre? And you see, he was a junior minister in the Harper government. I was industry minister, foreign affairs minister. I was dealing with Condoleezza Rice at that time, and Poilievre was a junior minister. Look at it, Canadian. He was minister for.
Do you see it, Robert? No.
No.
Junior minister under President Stephen Harper.
Okay, minister for democratic reform, employment. He had a little and junior portfolio. So he was not foreign affairs. He was not industry minister, big portfolio. He was not finance minister.
Yeah, I'm just trying to find out what is his biggest accomplishment. Why is he loved by his party, respected the way he is?
Because when he did campaign for the leadership of the Conservative Party, he was speaking like a real conservative, and he was very popular, on social media. He's very good to do little videos, and so he was very popular there. And they thought that Poilievre is a real conservative, and now they're very disappointed. So.
Got it. Yeah, I just typed it up. It says, becoming a leader of the Conservative Party, 2022, 68%. Opposition to carbon tax, advocating for economy and housing reform. His axe the tax and build more homes.
Yeah, but axe the tax, it's funny because the Liberals and Carney said, okay, we will axe the tax. Poilievre did ask for a an election based on the carbon tax, axe the tax. He wanted that the main subject during the campaign must be axe the carbon tax. But now Carney said he did it. Carney said, the carbon tax won't exist for Canadian consumers. And I'm saying, no more taxes, no more regulation. We must withdraw from the Paris Accord. I'm the only one. But the election must be on immigration, like you just show us, everything that this country will be destroyed by mass immigration. And that must be the subject of the campaign.
So, when President Trump talks about 51st state, making Canada the 51st state, I sit there at first, I'm like, is he trolling? Is he serious? Is he playing? Is he trying to get under your skin? Is he trying to make you upset?
Under your skin, yes.
Let's just say he is, right? And then I sit there and don't put the tariffs. It's not fair to this. It's not fair to that. And you go to military expenditure. You said it earlier a minute ago. Canada's military expenditure is 1.2, 1.3%. Nothing, right?
And we have that's a woke Canadian forces. They're promoting because of the color of your skin and your sexual orientation. The leadership of the Canadian forces is woke right now.
Who is that? Who is the leader at the top that's woke?
But it's a lady. That was a lady a couple of years ago. I don't know who is it, but they're woke. They're promoting wokeism in that organization. The lady before... now it's a guy, but...
Janine Corrigan, is that one?
Yeah, and she's still there. I think she...
Is this the one? Jenny?
Yeah.
Jenny, so she was... first one lady...
She's the current chief defense, and then she was appointed, the first woman there. She's there because she's a lady. That's it,
She's there because she's a lady.
Oh, for sure,
And so, but what do you do? So...
You reform the leadership of the Canadian forces first, and you reinvest in our defense.
How weak is your military? You don't have. Canada's not known for military, right?
No, and I was foreign affairs minister when we had that war in Afghanistan, and I traveled in Europe to ask my counterparts, other foreign affairs minister, please help us in Afghanistan. We don't have any resources. We need more, planes. We need help in Afghanistan. And so we were, asking for help in Europe and other countries to be sure to be at least efficient in Afghanistan. So, no, we don't have, we're a very weak Canadian forces.
You're ranked as 28. You're behind countries like Algeria, Thailand, Singapore. Greece is right next to you. Meaning they're ranked 30th. Singapore's 29th.
We cannot
Thailand's
defend
25th.
ourselves.
So can I say so? So if when I hear that, you know what it makes me think about? It upsets me because it makes me think about that Canada, just because they're neighbors with America and America is so strong in military, they don't need to invest into the military. So guess what? No one's going to attack us because America's our neighbor. They're not going to mess with us. So that causes me, if I'm Trump, to say, yeah, that's why you're going to become the 51st state. Or I'm going to put tariffs on you. So I'm actually really curious to know how the negotiation is going to go with Trump the next 3, 6, 12 months. Because if everything you guys produce, if we can make in America and bring those jobs back, and he puts his foot down and Mark, Pierre, somebody fumbles, this could be catastrophic for Canadians. Absolutely catastrophic for Canadians.
But that's why I'm saying we are the last hope for this country. We have the right economic policies. I think I know what we can do to have a good deal with Trump, but he's right about that. We are taking for granted our defense. We are saying, oh, the U.S. is there. Let's not, and we need to be serious about that. And I said that I don't know how many times, but it is time to be serious. And that's why we need to cut all these programs. We are giving money in other countries to promote woke ideology, the trans ideology. We are spending money, and money that, first of all, we don't have with our deficit. So let's be serious. And, I'm honest. I'm telling Canadians, yes, we have to cut the budget. We will be able to do that. It can be, difficult, but let's do it if we want to go ahead and have prosperity in Canada.
I just had a conversation with Ron Paul, like right before you. Ron Paul and I did a 1-hour podcast together.
Oh, that's great. I had the privilege to have a dinner with Ron Paul when I was in Parliament. He came in Ottawa.
He's
great
amazing.
Guy.
He's phenomenal, yeah. And, when you ask him, what is it to be a libertarian? Boom, 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 boom. You ask, what is it to be an American? I'm proud to be an American, or at least I know I'm free, right? And then you can sell America, right? What does it mean to be a Canadian?
We are not American.
What does that mean, though? But not. What are you guys? What is Canadian?
That's what maybe Canadians, we are not American, we are Canadians. So, okay, if we are not American, we are, more for social programs. We care a little bit more about people. We have a socialist policies in Canada. So we have, the way that the federal government or our politicians are speaking about Canadian identity, they're speaking about the legislation. They say, we have, our health care system is good. It's not like the US. It's not a private healthcare system. Everybody, has a protection, but it's not going well. Here you have, privatization at least 100%. In Canada, it's socialism there. So they are describing us based on social program. The reality is we are different because this country, Canada, is different. We have different culture. The culture in Quebec, in my own province, is very different than the culture in Alberta. The culture in Alberta is very different than the culture in PI. That's a country that we are the only country like that.
What is it to be a Canadian? I still don't know what it is to be a Canadian. What is it to be a Canadian?
What it is to be a Canadian, we, like you, we believe in freedom. We believe in less government and more autonomy. We believe that if you're a Canadian, you have the opportunity to grow and to do what you want in life. And now it's not the case anymore. We have the big fat government that is taxing us and regulating us all the time. So to be a Canadian is to be a free man, that we can do what we want. But right now it's not the case anymore. And with mass immigration, we need to know our history. And the majority of Canadians don't know the history of our country. These new immigrants, they're telling me that, I'm an immigrant also. No, my roots are, coming from at least 300 years. I'm a settler. I'm coming from France and in Quebec, and same thing for people coming from Europe, in Canada. We need to speak about our country. We are not, but we have different cultures. And that's, the Francophone part of Canada is the only place in North America that you have a Francophone government, majority of Francophone, try to speak French and be prosperous. So
who's your hero? Who are Canadians' heroes? If you give me 3 heroes, like when I was in Brazil and I'm talking to Jair Bolsonaro, you would hear Senna, you would hear Pele, and you would hear Jair Bolsonaro, and you would hear different names, right? Who are, of course, you may say Gretzky, but who are some heroes in Canada? Top 3.
Laurier, Wilfrid Laurier, in the beginning of our confederation, was the prime minister from Quebec, and, he was for free trades, and he was very for a smaller government. He was a liberal, but a classical liberal. And also, if you speak about sport, Maurice Richard was a big, Canadian, French-Canadian hockey players with the Montreal Canadiens. If you speak about music, Céline Dion, she's very well known. And, personally, I'm not a fan of her music, but, I'm proud that she's successful around the globe. But
Leonard Cohen is Canadian. Leonard Cohen is Canadian.
Yeah. No, we have a great, Francophone, Anglophone culture, but actually we have a very bad government.
Yeah, and so a part of that with the culture, the stronger the culture is, the more pride there is to protect it. The weaker the culture is, the more it allows President Trump to come in and say, hey, if you guys are not that proud to be Canadians, why don't you become American? I can see how he's doing that now. But let me ask you this question, because a lot of times you'll hear, well, we're independent from UK. We're independent from UK. We're independent from UK. We're independent. We're independent.
France,
I'm sorry, from France. We're independent.
UK,
You're right, with those guys. But then your Carney just went and sat down with the king, right? Yeah. Didn't that just happen? I think sometime did that just happen a week ago, right?
He was in Europe. He was in UK.
Why is it that, even though it's like, no, we are our own, but let us go and meet with King Charles after Trump threats? It was kind of like, hey, King Charles, can you protect us from Trump because Trump is doing this? Yeah, we're not part of UK, but hey, we kind of need because he's trying to bully us. Why is that? It's like because the impression to me is like you're running to daddy to protect from a bully. Is that the wrong impression or the right impression?
No, I think he went there, to try to have, our economy is 75% dependent on you guys. We are exporting. As you know, you have a trade deficit with us. The majority of the trade deficit is coming because of oil and gas first. If you don't put that in the equation, you won't have a trade deficit with us. So it's coming because of oil and gas. So I believe what he tried to do is to be sure to be able to have maybe a free trade agreement with Europe or with UK. Actually, we tried to have a free trade agreement with UK a year ago. That free trade agreement didn't work because of what? The cartel. The Canadian government said we have to protect the cartel, and the UK said we want to export the Stilton in Canada. Because of cheese, we were not able to have a free trade agreement. And now they're saying, now we need to look at, having more, opportunities for our businesses, and let's go and try to sign free trade agreements with Europe and other countries and UK.
Yeah, when I see that, how does Canada look at Canadians? How do Canadians look at UK and France? Is it friendly? What's the relationship there?
It's a friendly one, actually. Yes, but the reality is we are in North America. We need to have good relationship with you guys.
I fully agree.
That's the basic. We cannot go we cannot be, and with the multipolar world right now, with China, Russia, BRICS countries, so we are with you guys, and we need to just have a good deal with you that will be good for you and for us. Yes, we can try to have other free trade agreement and, being less dependent on your market. But in fact, it's easier now for business people to export to the US than to trade across the country. So we need to fix that, like I said. But let's have a deal and put everything on the table and have a real free trade. And Trump said, you put tariff, I'll put tariff. You withdraw from tariff, I will do the same. So let's do it. Let's be serious. There's a lot of tariffs that we are imposing to you guys. Let's put that on the table, please.
Is Carney putting that on the table right now?
No. Carney and Poilievre are not putting the cartel on the table. And, Trump did win all the swing states, including Wisconsin. Your dairy producers are in Wisconsin. They want to export to Canada. And Trump is listening to them. And we said to Trump at the first free trade agreement that we signed together, no. But now he's coming back, and he's serious about that. But for our establishment politicians, oh no, Trump is tweeting about that, but that's not serious. That is serious. If we want to have a deal, we need to put that on the table. If not, we won't have a deal.
Justin Trudeau, right? I mean, we haven't even talked about him yet. Justin Trudeau, have you had any interactions with him? Have you... How different is he behind closed doors than he is when the camera's on? Or is it the same person?
I had a dinner with him maybe 2 times when I was in Parliament. I was in government, he was in the opposition. And at that time, we had a dinner, and he said, Maxime, a day you're going to be the leader of the Conservative Party. One day, and one day I'll be the leader of the Liberal Party of Canada. So, and that was maybe in 2009, 2010. And this guy, is funny, is a good communicator, a good actor. He can cry on demand. I cannot do that, but he can.
He just did that a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, he can. But, there's nothing there. He's empty. You'll have a beer with him. He will chat and about, culture and sport and things like that. But, does this guy, what he did for the country, he did destroy our country in 9 years. And so it's immigration, the economy, the growth of our GDP is going down, and GDP per capita, like I said. So personally, we had a nice dinner, chit-chat, but no, the guy is a little bit also full of himself, and he's that publicly, privately also. He think that, He's running on the name of his dad. His dad was very well known, and I said it. This guy was elected the leader of the Liberal Party because of his name, Trudeau, and his dad, and also his look. He was young, but now people realize, and that's why I believe that the Liberal, it would be very tough for them with Carney to be reelected because of that record from
What
Trudeau.
was his father known for?
His father was known for starting the multiculturalism in Canada. He's the one who, and he did that to try to, when his father was in power, we had a separatist movement in Canada. You had René Lévesque at that time, and we had a referendum on the independence of Quebec. And the way to fight that was with multiculturalism. So Trudeau said there's no two funding a nation, Quebec, Anglophone and Francophone, and he tried, and that was the beginning of multiculturalism, and Trudeau put that at the extreme. So he was well known also to fight the separatists in Quebec. He was well known also to fight Western Canadians and being against the oil and gas industry at that time also. So Trudeau was a real socialist, actually, yeah.
His father was a true socialist.
Trudeau father, yeah.
Yeah, I'm looking at it right there. Liberalized divorce, abortion, homosexuality in 1967 as minister. So now with the current state of things, I looked at the numbers. I called a couple different guys, and one of the fellows I talked to, let me see here. Okay, he asked to stay anonymous, but you know who he is. Yeah. I asked him, I said, so what's the difference between Pierre and Max? Yeah. I'm curious to know what he's going to be saying. If I say who this person is, he was involved in politics. No, what I'm saying is you know who it is. He says, short answer, Pierre will be prime minister. Max probably won't even win his own seat. But more fundamentally, Max is a true libertarian and has always been. Pierre is a true blue conservative. Do you agree with him? On the politics at the end, the libertarian and the true blue conservative.
Well, Pierre, no, is a red Tory. He's not a blue conservative. Look at his policy. He's a red Tory, like a liberal. I said climate change. I said immigration. I said the war in Ukraine. Also, Poilievre is for the war in Ukraine. Right now, he said Canada must help Ukraine, and Trump is trying to have a peace deal over there. So we are the only one who said that. About I'm saying that Trudeau won't win. But, we are a small political party right now in Canada, but our growth is going very well. And maybe I won't be prime minister at this election, but I may be prime minister at the next one in 2029 because we're doing politics on the long term and our ideas are becoming more and more popular. But, on economy, I can be a libertarian for sure. But I'm a real conservative. Family values, faith, less regulation, more freedom. I'm the only one who did fight for freedom of choice during the COVID hysteria in Canada. We had lockdowns, stay-at-home orders, vaccine passport. Poilievre was okay with that. If you're a real conservative, you must fight that. You must fight for individual freedom. Poilievre was not fighting for individual freedom. I was. So, we are like a little bit the Reform Party in UK with Nigel Farage. Nigel, at the last election, he had only 15% of the vote. He was able to elect 6 MPs, 6 candidates. And now, after a year after that election, Nigel is ahead in the polls with the Reform Party. And the Reform Party, it's about the same platform of our political party, the People's Party. So what I'm telling you, the growth can come, but because of our parliamentary system, it's a little bit more difficult for us. There's no proportionality in our electoral system. It's not like in France or other country where you have proportionality in your electoral system. We don't. It's a parliamentary system. So it's more difficult to have seat, but we will.
It's interesting because when I asked the polls, how big is the People Party of Canada? Roughly 4.9% is what I see. 5% is what I see. 5%.
That's the score that we had at the last election.
Okay.
So my goal for this election is to double that.
Okay.
So if we double that to 10, we may have a couple of candidates elected. But our goal is to push, the government that would be elected in the right direction, to promote our ideas, to change the public opinion. And, we were successful on immigration. Now, our challenge is the mainstream media is not speaking about us. They know that if we have more visibility, we will grow faster. And like I said in the beginning, they're leftists. They don't want to. That's why, I'm doing podcasts, and I want to thank you for...
I respect that a lot. But yeah. I'm going somewhere with this. If you can show the poll I ran a poll, this is March 7th, say 10 days ago, 13 days ago.
Yeah.
Who's a better candidate for Prime Minister Canada? You had 34%, he had 51%.
Yeah.
And if you go a little lower in the comment section, Rob, just to kind of see these two party of choice, okay, how are you not seeing up here as just another globalist uniparty who deserves to slither away and never be heard from again? I don't know who this person is, Rachel Caroline Pla. I'm just trying to see how the audience responds. The PPDC and Max needs to be the party of our choice to remotely start to heal from the years of government abuse. Maxime Bernier, no contest. I mean, if you go through the comment section, you have a lot of people that want you to, be up there and get the attention. You have a big support from the audience with Canada. Yeah. What do you think needs to happen? And by the way, in Canada, is it similar to Brazil, where Pierre, if it gets to it to win, he's going to need you to beat Carney, or no? Is that how it works? But you got to kind of get in there to help him out, or no?
No, if like Trudeau didn't have a majority government. He had a majority in 2015, but now that's a minority government. So they had a coalition with the NDP. And so if Poilievre doesn't have a majority, he will need to do a coalition. So we can have a couple of MPs there and doing that deal with Poilievre for sure. But we won't merge with the Conservative Party because the Conservative Party is not conservative anymore. So that's the big problem. Look at every issues. They are not. They are afraid to speak about conservative values. Everything that Trump did, working against the woke ideology, there's only two sexes. Poilievre won't say that.
He won't say that?
He said, I must admit, that there's two genders. But after that, the journalist did ask, if you applied for your Canadian passport, Mr. Poilievre, you have male, female, and X. Are you going to have only male and female for the application? And he didn't want to answer that question. So he said, no, the preoccupation is the economy, stupid. So for him, wokeism and the trans ideology, it's not important. For me, it's important. It's unfair. DI, diversity, equity, and inclusion, we need to change that. We need to have, unity or, promoting, meritocracy and not inclusion. But Poilievre won't go there. Poilievre is not doing the cultural war. That's why people are mad at it. Trump is doing that in the U.S. I'm doing that in Canada.
That's such a, if that's the case, that's such a lame and weak position. I mean, look at this here from January, Poly Market. Look what Pierre was. Okay, go to January, Rob, if you could. Can you zoom it all the way back? No, the way where you were right there. Zoom in a little bit. Pierre, according to Poly Market, was at 90%. Carney was at 12%.
That was at that time Trudeau. Okay, but Carney.
Oh, Trudeau's there as well, 3.6% to win. Rob, is that what you're running? And then now, if you come to today, Poly Market says what? He went from 91 to 41. Is this really true that he's dropped 50 points of popularity?
Yeah, right now in the poll, Carney have an advantage.
That is what happened for him to drop 50 points?
Because his branding was to be against Trudeau. And, and he didn't put out their policies. And that's Harper. Harper told him, you are the leader of the opposition. Your role is to oppose everything that Trudeau is doing. Don't go out there with policies first, because if they're good, the Liberal will steal it and run on your policies. And second, if they're not good, they will destroy you. So don't run on any policies, just be against. So now the problem is Trudeau is not there anymore. So you have a new leader. And so his branding is against Trudeau. And now you have Trump. And now, people want to have somebody that will fight Trump. And he's not that guy. He doesn't have, any also don't forget the media also. The mainstream media did promote Polyev. I told you, they're not Polyev, sorry, Carney. They did promote him.
Yeah,
So
but that's Pierre's fault for not wanting to go and talk to other people. He just,
he cannot right now because it's empty slogan. He doesn't have any platform, so he cannot have a discussion.
I hope he does.
He will have a platform during the campaign, but it's a little bit late. And, it's all about, he believes that if you want to win an election, you need to have good coverage from the mainstream media. And said, forget the mainstream media. So when he's doing a press conference, it's all about, he's speaking like, by slogan and with no details because he doesn't want to give details. Polyev doesn't know what he believes in right now. He will know just before the election when he will do poll and focus group. So that's why I said he's a follower. He's following the public opinion that has been manipulated by the leftist media. He's not leading. And now you can show that. That's why it's happening. People want a leader with ideas. And Polyev is not out there.
Rob, is this updated as of today, March 20th?
Yep, it says up in the top corner,
and this
March
is
20th.
Polymarket.
Yeah.
That is embarrassing. Can you go to to Vegas odds? Can you just go to Vegas odds to see what Vegas odds are saying about Prime Minister in Canada? Canadian Prime, What's Vegas odds saying, 2025? Are they doing anything or no?
They did, I think.
Vegas odds. Oh man, that is just absolutely embarrassing. Next prime. Okay, there's one here. Yeah, Polymarket. That's the one. So, you're on the one. That was the one, Rob.
Yeah.
That Sauce just sent. Wow,
you can go also 338 Canada.
338 Canada.
Yeah, 338.
I'm on it right now. Yeah.
Yeah. So they're gonna tell you by seats. So which one will have more seats? And right now they're saying the Liberals will have more seats than the Conservative. Yeah. So
178, 130.
Yeah, and to have a majority, you need 162 seats.
So right now he's behind by 32.
Yeah. Yeah. So the Liberals are very popular in Quebec. They have a lot of seats there in Ontario, and Polyev is popular out west.
Okay, so I have a CEO of a major insurance company in Canada, and here's what he sent me to ask. His question was, will you commit resources to lifting interprovincial trade barriers?
Yes, I said that 10 years ago. Absolutely. And you know what? The federal government can do that. It's in our constitution. That is under the responsibility and the jurisdiction of the federal government. We need to have real internal trade and free trade across the country. And yes, you can do that. You use the constitution to be sure to have that after 150 years, we still don't have an economic union in Canada. But the good news is the government of Nova Scotia, two weeks ago, they said, okay, we will have a new legislation, no more trade barriers in our province, and that's an incentive for other provinces to do that also. We are welcoming goods coming from other provinces, and they were the first one to do that. So I hope that other provinces will follow. If not, the federal government can push that and use the power that we have in the Constitution to do it.
That's very important because to us, it may not be a big deal in America. We don't know what that means, right? But over there, it's kind of like being an EU and, you're trying to do business and it's a little bit complicated.
It's easier for a business in New Brunswick to sell goods in Maine than it is to sell that in Quebec. So we need to abolish all that.
That's crazy, yeah.
That's the reality.
Well, Max, I'm going to give you final thoughts. This has been a pleasure talking to you. I appreciate you for coming out.
Thank you.
I love your energy. For the audience that's watching this, he lands last night, and this morning you ran 12K?
Yeah, 12.
12K this morning prior to coming to the meeting. And we had a great conversation about Doug Flutie because you used to play football back in the days. And Doug Flutie was a Canadian. He went from Boston College to play quarterback. Final thoughts to Americans and Canadians that may be listening to this.
Yeah, I'm telling to Americans, we won't be the first date. Just understand that. We love you, and we can have a better relationship. And I understand Trump, and I'm ready to work with your president to be sure that, we will do what is right to protect your own security by protecting our own security in Canada.
Respect. Maxime, this has been a pleasure having you on. Thank you so much for coming out. It's been fantastic.
That was fun.
Thank you. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye, bye-bye. Nowadays, more than ever, the brand you wear reflects and represents who you are. So for us, if you wear a Future Looks Bright hat or a Valuetainment gear, you're telling the world, I'm optimistic. I'm excited about what's going to be happening, but you're a free thinker. You question things. You like debate. And by the way, last year, 120,000 people got a piece of Future Looks Bright gear with Valuetainment. We have so many new things. The cufflinks are here. New Future Looks Bright. This is my favorite, the green one. Just yesterday, somebody placed an order for 100 of these. If you watch the PBD podcast, you got a bunch to choose from. White ones, black ones. If you smoke cigars and you come to our cigar lounge, we have this high quality lighter cutter and a holder for the cigars. We got sweaters with the Valuetainment logo on it. We got mugs. We got a bunch of different things. But if you believe the future looks bright, if you follow our content and what we represent with Valuetainment, with PBD Podcast, go to vtmerch.com. And by the way, if you order right now, there's going to be a special VT gift inside just for you. So again, go to vtmerch.com, place your order, tell the world that you believe the future looks bright.